Sunday evening. Before we actually start, I want to say thank you to our guest last week on the hilariously titled Women's Special from York and Featherstone for giving up their time, and Zoe for presenting as well. It's all gone down well. The only problems with the programme was my technical abilities behind the camera. The programme was well received. We've had over 27,000 views and listens of our women's rugby league content since the start of the season, so thank you very much for all those.
Anybody would think there was a market out there for it.
We hope to do another show in the future, but it's a matter of A, time, B, no money. So we will do what we can. We certainly have more
But
content.
we do have big news.
We do have big news.
Shall we hold off the big news?
No, let's tell people now.
No, let's
I'm
just
just
let them
tuning in
wait.
just to see him eat and read.
Yeah. He's not had a chance to read the paper yet tonight. I mean, I'm only just getting online. I don't know what's going on in the world of Rugby League this weekend.
All you need to know is nobody's been charged disciplinary.
Well, yeah, I understand.
Cannonballs are allowed, or maybe encouraged.
Yeah.
But apart from that...
But according to Chris Chester,
was that the one
the entire Wigan team should have been cited. Well, nearly.
Not Shaun Edwards, though.
But he can't take any responsibility.
He was not prepared.
No.
Even though he'd already agreed to join the club.
You hear it here first. He is going to be the new coach of Ottawa. No, he isn't.
Ottawa.
Don't report that.
I didn't enjoy it because I was at Fev yesterday, which is obviously a great place to go. It's what I believe is a proper rugby league town. And we are live on YouTube now. Thanks, Tom McGuire. We're just late today. You haven't seen the hectic nature of today's programme behind the scenes. I'll talk about Fev in a bit. What is the big story in rugby league this weekend? Is it Toronto? Is it Ottawa? Is it New York? Nah. Is it actual things on the field?
Is it obstruction tries?
I've not actually seen the end of the Catalans game.
Shoulder charges.
Shoulder charges
to
are
the
back.
head.
Cannonballs are back. I'm going to have to go out. So I'm going to come out and say it straight away. You are not a fan of these cannonball tackles, right?
No.
And any foul play. First people blamed for these things by everyone are the referees and the disciplinary. But is it about time that the players who do these things took some responsibility themselves for what they are doing?
Well, we'll do the show here. They are coached to do this sort of thing. So the coaches, right, need to stop this. It's the coaches who are telling the players what to do. So then, if these players are taking the orders out from these coaches, it's quite simple. Quite simple for me. The players, even though a player may not be injured from it, as we know some Wakefield players are injured, but if the intention's there, right, this is how you stop it, because prevention is a cure, right? Prevention is the cure. Any player who is looking to do this cannonball tackle, for me, gets 12 months, right? And coaches, John, it'll stop it. It will stop it, right?
I want to say it stopped. No, I think 12 months.
No. Well, you know what? You only see it once, because then everybody will stop it.
Les Boyd style punishment.
Well, exactly. And then secondly...
But do you think Adrian Lamb...
Hold on, Phil, hold on. And then secondly, from a coach who is encouraging these tackles, right, the team get deducted 4 points. There you are. It'll only happen once, and it will stop it. Simple as.
Do you think Adrian Lamb is the kind of coach that is telling his players to go out and attack?
Well, his players are doing it.
If indeed it is Wigan who are accused of such things.
we know Wigan's done it since Maguire's days. We know Wigan have done it in Shaun's days, and now they're carrying it on. So, have we had Adrian Lamb come out and said, hold on, I haven't instructed this. I don't understand why my players are doing this. You asked the Wakefield players. You asked Chris Chester, and I guess you asked Michael Carter, the chairman. They were absolutely disgusted at the team and what was going on there.
But they haven't been backed up by the disciplinary committee.
Well, it's pathetic. The disciplinary committee, whoever it is, they all want sacking. They all want sacking. Because I tell you what, would be the show, they wouldn't like a cannonball tackle done on them, would they? Simple as.
No, that's true.
Simple
Rich,
as.
you were there at Bellevue on Friday. What did Adrian Lamb say? He didn't see it?
I was going to say you asked the wrong person, aren't you? I thought you were going to say, what did you make of the tackles? As we remember last week, people asking, how did Lee Gaskell play? And I said, he's all right, he won't play.
He did a Wenger, didn't he?
He did not see it. He wanted to see the video afterwards.
In fairness, at Bellevue, it is hard to see certain angles.
I mean,
also as well, let me just say this as well, right? If back in my day, let's just say, right, and I was being held up, and I felt as though the cannonball tackle was coming in, and I could see somebody looking from there, right? if I stuck my foot out, literally, stuck my foot out in a boot, and it caught that player in the head, and maybe damaged his eyesight, or maybe smashed his face in or whatever, who would get penalised then? Who would get penalised then? Because all I would be doing would be defending myself. You look at these players who are being held up, literally can't move, they're defenceless. They are absolutely defenceless. This is very much not just a dangerous tackle. You know what? I just feel it. Well, it's not part of the game whatsoever. And until we start giving out the massive suspensions, it's going to keep going.
I can't remember Cannonballs in the 80s and 90s.
We didn't have it. No. We didn't even have wrestling, did we?
I think it was it Melbourne Storm in the 2000s, wasn't it?
Well, it's all this wrestling. Yeah. It's all this wrestling.
Yeah. Although the Cannonball does seem to be very different from your crusher and your other wrestling, because it is, it's a dive.
It's just literally a target where the guy who held up can't literally move, and then he's just a sitting duck. Yeah. To be lamed.
But the match review panel don't deem it to be an offence because they haven't cited people.
Well, they won't sacking.
I mean, I think one of the things that we do have with the disciplinary is you can go on the website now and look at details of everybody who has been charged, which is quite open. There aren't many other sports that will do that. But what we don't get is an explanation of those who haven't been charged. So now, should Chris Chester now be hauled up for saying Wigan's tactics were something other than we were, when the fact doesn't bear that out if the match review panel aren't going to see it that way?
Well, do you know what the fact is? Players' injuries. There you go, there's your answer.
But David Fifita wasn't injured in the issue. He put a clip out, didn't he, on social media, which looks awful. Yes. But that particular clip hasn't been cited. So something's going wrong somewhere.
And interestingly, Big Dave, as he's known to everyone, the big bopper.
The man who's solved Wakefield's wing problem with Tom Johnson being injured.
I think he's playing at 6 at the weekend as well, maybe 7. The man, the Castleford, I don't think I can tell you what the Castleford fans referring to him as. It'll be up on the Twitter later.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I spoke to him earlier. He said he didn't want to see anyone banned.
You know what? This disciplinary panel. You know what they need to get to a well-known optician.
I mean,
to a well-known optician.
They picked one out.
Sam Powell's been done for 2 games.
Yeah,
so I've seen today.
and Shorrocks has had his wrist slapped but not banned.
Yeah,
but that's not an epidemic of naughty tactics.
I think we've already seen this season with the Joe, which I remember vividly, the Joe Greenwood shoulder charge to the head of Blake Austin, which I don't think it was even penalised. There just doesn't seem to be any consistency. Tom Lynam, I mean, there was a penalty try.
One match.
But there was a penalty try, so I could understand. It could have been a red card, that offence, or a yellow, but he gave the penalty try as well, but he stayed on the field. And that was blatant.
Adam Milner. We're allowed to headbutt now. No,
has he got nothing for that?
Sufficient that he was sin binned a minute, 2 minutes from time.
He cost Castleford the game, so you could say that's a penalty enough. But yeah, that's bad.
If you're serious about player welfare, and somebody has been on national television headbutting an opponent to the point where he's been dismissed from the field, albeit temporarily, is there not a charge attached to that?
Was it Liam Watts last year for Hull FC? He got sent for that, didn't he? More of a love tap than a headbutt compared to what
I just think the one of the big issues which we can talk about during the next hour or so is the number of injuries. I don't know if we've reached epidemic proportions yet, and I know we have this conversation every year about is it getting worse, and there's no real data ever produced to say whether it is or it isn't. I'm concerned now that there are certain teams who are going to really struggle over Easter to get 17 players out for that second game in particular. Certainly for the third game, which comes along with 3 in 7 or 8 days. We're seeing at the moment with clubs like Wakefield who, barely are going to be able to put a team together.
This ties into the reserve issue too, because that's when you have additional players to draw on, you can rotate your players.
But we have to protect the players that we've got. Otherwise, we're going to end up as fans, not watching the best play the best. And the team that wins the grand final will be the one that has the least number of casualties.
Well, do you know
what are we doing about player welfare?
Well, do you know what as well, Phil and John, and maybe one way to stop this, and as I say, and Mal really mentioned it to me 2 or 3 years ago, bring it where you can only have 2 men in the tackle. That'd stop all the wrestling. That'd stop all this nonsense. Because, I would say then basically the first man would tackle round low, and then the second man would come in to stop the ball carrier passing the ball. So why don't we have a look at this instead of all this wrestling, what's going on? Because there's 4 or 5 guys in the tackle from there. Because teams now are looking at to stop the opposition playing the ball. So they're looking at around about 7-8 second play the ball. Why don't we look at it to stop these injuries from a point of view where it's only 2 men in the tackle maximum?
So coming up, we've got the, as it's officially called, don't forget to use the official RFL hashtag, Busy Easter Period, which starts on Thursday. But as has been pointed out by many, and some players love it and some people hate it, we are in an era where we talk about player welfare all the time, and it's that old chestnut once again. It's been brought up by Alan on Facebook. It's time the Easter programme was 1 game, not 2.
Well, again, we shouldn't always compare to the NRL. It's not like for like, but Easter in the NRL is 1 round. It starts on Thursday, it finishes on Monday. Every game is a big game. It's heavily promoted. You can go from one to the other. They're not in competition with each other. It's a big weekend that includes some real rivalries. Some big teams get to meet each other. There's even a new stadium opening on Monday in the Bankwest at Parramatta. That is already being promoted as an event that weekend. Over here, we've got all the teams playing at the same time, even though we have Robert Elston quite rightly trying to promote, we're looking for the biggest ever crowd weekend. Well, how can you be involved in watching Wigan and St Helens, for example, if you're watching Huddersfield and Leeds? You can't. We are competing against ourselves and making our players play twice over such a short period of time.
And killing half of the TV audience as well.
When are we going to learn?
As Paul said, get rid of the Easter Monday fixture. That should be the Magic Weekend game. I know you've got the issue there of teams losing a home game, but I'm sure they could be recompensed in some form or another.
To make it an event. We've said it before, the ideal for me would be Thursday, Friday, and if you had to, Saturday, you would play Super League games. On the Monday, you'd play Championship games. And then if you're a real Rugby League fan and you want your 2 bites of the cherry, then you adopt a Championship or League One team and see your 2 games over the weekend, keep the crowds up, but only play 1 game in each division. League One only play 1 game because they've only got 11 teams.
So why did Super League play 2 games then? Who brought this up?
It's tradition.
Yeah, tradition.
What about...
The same tradition as we used to burn witches.
Just like the amazing tradition that somehow, every year on Good Friday, St Helens play Wigan. Even though there's a computer that randomly fixes.
What about, like, even on the Monday, some of the teams, a double header. So you might get, Leeds and Huddersfield and Wakefield and Hull KR or whatever, something to build up to an event.
Or even a Championship and a Super League doubleheader.
Doubleheader, yeah, that would be good. But we're at war, Phil. We're at war.
Fair Toronto on Monday, but no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm telling you in a bit where you should be on Monday.
There's only one place.
There is only one place to be on Monday.
We need to pay tribute, and we've got the right man here to do that. Greg Inglis retired this morning from Rugby League.
I still can't get over the
32 years old.
Yes.
Player of the a player of the generation. I don't know from your perspective of how you saw him develop, but seeing him over here as the fully fledged player that we did, one of the greatest I've seen. The phrase is used a lot: men against boys. He always was that for me. Australia will miss him, Queensland will miss him, South Sydney will
England
miss him.
won't miss him.
We won't. But another shining light has been diminished.
As a New South Welshman, I won't miss him because he should have been playing for New South Wales because he was born and raised there. But that's another issue. No, I agree completely. I was actually thinking about this, listening to a podcast on the way in, another podcast, and thinking about Sco. He in a way, he's been another Meninga. Different in some ways, but the physical presence, the fend... you played against Mal and
but also to Mal's partner and Gene Miles as well. Yeah. So Greg, he's been a freak of rugby league player, and you will put him in Meninga's.
I think you've got to. I don't think he's an immortal. No, he's not. But he's in that bracket. All-time great.
He's in that. He was unplayable.
He's in that bracket. We Mal. No, he won't be an immortal, but he's in that. You can put him in that bracket with Mal and Gene Miles without a doubt. But also as well, when you look at the Australian centres, you can put him there as well. The same with Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers. Yeah. This is how good. Yeah.
But he also did it. He did it at fullback as well,
and at 6. I can remember him in a grand final. I think it was 2007. They might have been cheating the cap, but we won't talk about that. But he was playing at 6 for Melbourne, and that was a Melbourne team with a much younger Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, before Cooper Cronk. He was playing at 6, and he was a ball runner. He wasn't a distributor, but he was devastating at 6.
Exactly, and also with the size of man again, it's exactly like Big Gene and Big Mal. what pace did he have? He had no issues going 60, 70, 80 yards whatsoever. Simply a freak of a rugby league player. He will be sadly missed. Absolutely
and I
sadly
think
missed.
Probably 2014, apart from all the Origin tries and the Australian internationals, 2014, winning that grand final with Sam Burgess at South. 43 years. The Bunnies had to wait. That's probably his crowning achievement.
I was lucky enough to present him with a golden boot at Ellen Road in 2009 when he became the best player in the world, and rightly so from there. So I don't think there'd be any argument of Greg Inglis being up there with the greatest Australian rugby league.
Yeah, sad to see him, forced out by injury.
What's he been forced for? Just niggling injuries.
The shoulder, I think, is the main. He's had issues, body issues. I think it's just as Phil said, it was like men against boys, and I think now he's coming back to the field and he's not that dominant force because his body is letting him down. I think it's 16 or 15 years that he's. Do
you know what? As well, then fair play to him for being open and honest to say,
fantastic.
I can't take it anymore. He might still enjoy going to training. He might still enjoy the playing, but what he's realised is now, even though he's only 32, I tell you what, some of these boys a lot younger than me. You look at the size of these fellas from there. Yeah, fair play to him, but.
And he's going to stay involved in the sport because he's been a fantastic ambassador for the Indigenous.
Hey, that's what the Aussies do, don't they? They keep the greats in the game, don't they?
Yeah, Souths are going to look after him. Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what the game do in Australia. They look after players. No, I'm not saying.
What you mean? The great ambassadors of the sport.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they want the players to give something back, and they know they've got something to offer. Pretty strange, that, isn't it? Pretty strange.
They'll never catch up.
Yeah, I wonder if the Rugby Football League are listening. For some of our, it's gone in my day now. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the players now. I'm talking about I'm talking about the players, who are going to come up and retire and all this sort of thing. Use them as ambassadors. Exactly.
We no doubt will have the cup draw as it's made at some point.
I've got the iPlayer working. It did say, "Have you paid your TV licence?" From possibly.
Well.
So fingers crossed. That's on.
Don't tell them what address you're at in case you haven't.
After 6:30.
But
probably about 10.
We've probably got time to Lord St Helens.
Well, what a surprise, because we did the predictions last week, as we do every week, and all but Phil Kaplan tipped Warrington to win by 10, 8 and 13 points. And
he gets
Phil said
one thing
Saints
right.
by 6. And what did they do? I wasn't there because I was at Wakefield, watching Wakefield and Wigan. But Saints smashed them off the park. What's that all about?
You must have been impressed watching that with the all-round quality of St Helens, that they seemed to come out on a mission. And I think the semi-final last year still rankles with them. And that for them personally, that was a real milestone game, irrespective of the league positions. I think they knew they had to go out there and prove to themselves that was a blip that they're going to try and hopefully if they meet the two teams at the same stage last year, psychologically now they put themselves in a very good. But that was as good an all-round 80-minute display as we've seen, even allowing for the sin binning of Chris Hill.
Oh, not sure it's about
Mike Cooper.
Mike Cooper.
And,
although it couldn't. No.
But we could mention both semi-finals. When they got smashed by Catalans themselves and they got beat by Warrington. But that performance by St Helens on Friday night was quite simple. The forwards were absolutely sensational. They literally battered St Helens. Not just the starting six, but the guys who came off the bench as well. McCarthy's guys, but how much did he enjoy it? Not just the enjoyment of becoming a dad game with twins and the way that he celebrated from there. Kyle Moore had a kick up the backside in pre-season. Justin Holbrook said, "Go find another club if you want." Kyle said, "No, I'm going to prove myself to you." And you can have your pretty boys, that scored some nice tries. Regan Grace, brilliant try, great ball movement, but you can't do anything until you forward set that platform. And I'll tell you what, I said it in my column today, has there been a better front row than Thompson, Roby and Walmsley since Super League started in 1996? I'll tell you what, there'll be some debate. I know we could talk about the Bradford pack with Laws and Vagan and Anderson and Fielding and what have you, but when you look at that front three, but then also to the mobility of the rest of them and the way they just ripped in and hammered Warrington and Doanse. And I was looking forward to that challenge, but what Chris Hill and Mike Cooper wanted to do, they wanted to hit the line, but then passing the ball. Now, I'm sorry, when it's a contest like that, it's a matter of who is the toughest, who is the hardest, who is going to come from depth, and who is going to ram into them and try breaking that line. Warrington weren't prepared for that. They would not take that challenge up. St Helens was sensational, and it was the forward pack. Forget about the pretty boys. It was the forwards who literally battered Warrington.
We mentioned it since the start of the season, but it's the endurance of those forwards as well, that because we've gone down to 8 interchanges, they can play big minutes, all of them, if they have to.
But they want to play big minutes, Phil. The players want to play big minutes.
And I'm not sure any other team has got that as well as St Helens have at the moment. Will this derail Warrington, or does it just give them the benchmark now?
Yeah, he'll just give them a benchmark and say, well, listen, when we play St Helens again, we know exactly what we're coming up against and what we are going to have to do. The forward pack, certainly. Forget about the backs. This is not a challenge between two sets of backs. This is the challenge of two sets of forwards. The forwards who are starting out, the two sets of sixes, and the bench. It's as simple as that, and that's going to be bang, 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 and whoever goes through them gates or concrete walls are going to win this game. So that is a challenge for Warrington. Don't be playing touch and pass in the front row. Don't be looking at going to contact and passing the ball, because that ain't going to do. They would have learned a harsh lesson on Friday night. Simple. If you don't go over that line against St Helens, you're going to get battered.
So the big talking point coming out of that game, and I've got the disciplinary in front of me right now. Here we go. Ryan Shaw, grade C, 2-match penalty notice for Hull Kingston Rovers, and this is the derby, obviously. Sam Powell, 2 matches for Wigan. Josh York, 0 matches. Paulie, 0 matches. He pushed some play over at the end. It's quite funny. Brendan Williams, grade B, shoulder charge, 1 match. Tom Lynham, grade B, striking. I think that's a striking. That's not the official RFL word I heard of the weekend to describe it. 1 match penalty notice. Tom Lynham, is he a bit of a brick outhouse of a player?
Well, I'll tell you what.
That's what someone said on Twitter. Well, someone closely related to the Rugby Football League. When you saw it, he will look at us still on the field. To be honest with you, and
very lucky.
The thing about it, when he hit Regan Grace, it didn't seem to really bother Regan Grace because he would just like to score the try and he got up very quickly and celebrated.
Euphoria of scoring.
It was a cheap shot.
Oh, it was a cheap shot. I agree with you.
I was at Leeds, the same as Phil, and watched the replay. Grace has already got the ball down.
Absolutely.
And he's lined.
Yeah, he was ready. He was ready. Yeah, but I agree with you totally. Yeah, for me, he should have been sent off.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at today's game and the rules, he was literally attacked to the head, even though it wasn't. But again, the intent was there. Yeah. So if the intent is there, you have got to suspend him. So you stop it. So you prevent it. So yeah, he was looking. He was very, very lucky to stay on the field.
In terms of great moments of the season and how we should be promoting the sport with our video clips and however we deem to do it. Regan Grace's try, you won't get much better than that this season, will you? Had everything you would want to see.
Yeah. And I think if he keeps
Max Jowett, we'll come to that in a minute.
If he keeps playing like that, that's the sort of form that puts him into Great Britain. Yeah, particularly with Tom Johnson out. You know, unfortunately for Tom, but that's the sort of form that puts him in that frame. And you know, if he can keep that form up, then he should be.
And as a sport, do we need to be doing more to promote Regan Grace that night, the following morning, get clips up all on YouTube?
Definitely. I didn't know he had such a strong Welsh accent. It's good to hear that, you know, different accent out there.
His sister's fairly famous as well, in terms
Don't
of
watch that
the level
rubbish.
of
reality TV or
she's
something.
a reality TV star, yeah.
I don't think Star might be a
I'm not sure she's the kind of person I'd use to promote Rugby League, but she does have a bit of notoriety, at least.
Well, I've noticed, just on that bit, Rich, I've noticed not a lot of people seem to be promoting Joey Barton at the moment.
Well,
he was all the rage because he loved Rugby League, but because he's done another Joey Barton-esque thing.
4020 magazine here. He's not been on the front cover, has he? No, just the other one.
But Joey Barton's done another Joey Barton-esque thing, which surprised, allegedly, of course.
In Barnsley.
A bit like the cigar to the eyelid of a former teammate. But, yeah, no one seems to be shouting about how great it is that he likes Rugby League now.
Well,
funny that.
What do you expect?
Got to be careful who your friends are.
Don't annoy Joey. Don't beat Fleetwood Town. Yeah.
Well, poor old
after the draw, which could be any time.
It could be any time.
We probably need to talk about obstruction because I've seen a really good article with. Well, the fact that
what obstruction?
If we could, there's too many of them.
No, there weren't any.
Well,
there weren't any. There were fair tries.
Because tries were disallowed because of them. But really,
listen. I think what we're talking about is officials getting it wrong.
Well, I was say
getting it wrong, and I say because we'll come on to that, and also too as well. And I'm going to say on behalf of everybody. Did you listen to that referee in the commentary at Catalans and Hull, Chris Kendall? Well, I'm saying it for everybody's behalf here now because now I'm literally getting fed up of them shouting and coaching and coaching. Chris Kendall, for me, you were absolutely ridiculous on Saturday night. And I hope you're all listening. I hope Ganson's listening. Please get your referees in and tell them to be quiet and shut up. And what I will say is, James Child on Friday night, he wasn't shouting and bawling. I thought Child had a great game with St Helens and Warrington. Referees, stop shouting and bawling. Chris Kendall on Saturday night, you were absolutely pathetic.
I'm going to defend Chris Kendall, but only for the fact that I reckon I know what the problem is here. On the commentaries from France, the direct feed of the audio includes the referee's mic.
It's saying where he's over here, Rich. It's saying where he's over here.
But the problem is, because if you listen to commentaries on a certain national radio station from France, you'll hear the same audio you get on Sky, and that's the problem there. But yeah, some referees do talk more than others.
No, Richie, the shouting. And also as well,
you can't trust the players to do anything right.
But Richie, you know, on Saturday night, right, when the players were passing the ball, they were going, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. What's okay? What's okay? It was pathetic. I'm talking on behalf of everybody here now, because you know, when I'm filling the car up with petrol, or I'm in Morrison's, or I'm in Aston, or wherever I'm shopping,
with your dressing gown,
yeah, and people are saying, Scully, have a mention about these referees shouting and bawling on television. So I'm saying it on behalf of every Rugby League supporter, because I'll tell you what. And I don't want to do it, but I'll be muting I'll be muting the television, because I can't do with referees anymore. I'm not having it.
Just while we've ended up on TV as a tangent, Toby is concerned because, of course, on Friday it's the end of an era, and a massive era for Rugby League broadcasting in this country, because we're saying goodbye to Eddie Hemmings, we're saying goodbye to Neville Smith. Toby has asked who's taking over. It will be announced this week. Oh, there you go then.
Which you could have read in last month's Forty20 magazine. New one out this week.
There you go. So there you go, Toby. There's the answer to the question. There's the new one. It looks beautiful. Look at that. French.
Almost art.
It is almost art. It is the, you know, apart from the ones with Sam Tompkins.
I think he's from Sydney. Mark.
You when those
Look,
French,
we've just had an order from Toulouse. Don't
French
disabuse.
Sydney people.
What I was going to say about obstruction, we'll come back to it, because I'm sure the draw will interrupt us. Really interesting article from Gareth Ellis in his column in the Yorkshire Post today, saying that he had absolutely no doubt that Matt Whitley's try should have been allowed for Catalan. We obviously might have seen Hull lose, and we'll talk about how well the Hull youngsters played and how if they could have golden. But we're getting to the point where players are now saying that the opposition should have had tries. Something is clearly wrong. If it's an interpretation, then we need to change the interpretation. If the law says anybody standing in the defensive line is obstructing, then then we'll never have a dummy runner again in the world.
Philly went over to the dead ball line.
He went through the line.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
So, what do we need to do to change this? Because somebody's instructing the referees, if they see someone coming through the line, to check it. If they didn't go up and have it checked, it would have been a try. Well, if there hadn't been a video screen there, it would have been a try.
I'll tell you what you do then.
So what do we do? Do we just say, if it's reviewed and there is no way that the player could have got across and made the tackle, the try stands?
I'll tell you what you do, right? The referee who's, you know, the so-called video ref, you have an ex-player at the side of him saying, no, that's okay. There's no obstruction there. And I can tell you now, if that defender, because he's been in that position before, because he's an ex-player, there's no way that defender could have got there, so that's a try. I mean, have an ex-player at the side of him.
There's too many players who feel as though they've made a wrong defensive read, appealing when that happens, if anybody brushes in contact with
falling over.
You've got to stop that.
Exactly. Well, you stop it. Give the try.
And the other thing that Lee Radford has mentioned again is something that we've gone on about all season. There is still too much professional fouls with players rolling the ball into those in tackled situations that can't get out. We saw, probably to the worst extreme in Australia over the weekend, that referees don't want to stop play.
No.
Players are not, even if the ball is touching an opponent, are just picking it up and playing on. The extreme was the North Queensland game, where they forgot to stop the game when there were serious injuries. But we need to get that balance back, don't we? That just because somebody is
it's a common sense decision, though.
Yeah,
exactly. You've just said the right word there.
Is there room
for common sense?
Common sense in the Rugby League.
People end
Book
up
of
on the
Laws.
wrong side of the ruck. Sometimes it is unavoidable. If you're lying in the ruck, it's a different, thing.
Well, there's a difference being caught at the ruck, and
making no effort to get out.
And players who are deliberately throwing the ball.
I think it was
at people.
2 weeks ago at Bellevue, and Rich was there, and Cruz Leeming had the ball at dummy half, and there was a Wakefield player about 3 minutes behind, and he literally turned to pass it into this player. It was so blatant, and the referee blew for a penalty. I mean, that's
again,
when you should be a penalty against Chris Leaming for doing that.
But is this now? The referees need to be instructed.
They do.
You can't blame the referee
set
because if the instruction at the beginning of the season is we're not going to allow X, Y, or Z, then that's what they'll do. So even though we're sort of 10 rounds in, do we need to change some interpretations here to clean?
Definitely.
There's no point having a shot clock to try and clean up the game if you've still got too many players looking for cheap penalties like that.
Exactly.
And obstructions ruling out perfectly good tries that may or may not have affected it. I mean, the one thing about the game in Hull, which had the most extraordinary finish, absolutely unbelievable. The whole game in Perpignan.
It's the accents. It's difficult to tell the difference.
Everybody said, "Oh, that try should have stood and Castellan should have won." Castellan would have won if Braden Williami had understood the laws of the sport.
He shouldn't have been on the field. I mean, that was one of the worst shoulder charges. One game. I mean, he's not only dropped the shot. Was it Jake Conroy? I think, or it might not have been Jake Conroy, but whoever the whole player was, he's not only dropped his shoulder into his head. He's jumped off the ground to inflict it. So there was no arms. There was no arms anywhere near it. It was a blatant attack to the head. And how he didn't get a red card, I'll never know.
Welcome to the latest episode, by the way, of Rugby League Conspiracy Theories. Now, it's bad enough that last week you'll have seen that article on the BBC website. The worst thing that ever happened in rugby was a man eating a blood capsule as if he was taking part in something from the Chuckle Brothers, not the French Vichy collaborating with the Nazis to take all the gold from the French Rugby League. But now the French have gone one further to delay the sixth round draw. Sixth round? Whatever round it is of the Challenge Cup.
Sixth round
draw. Notre Dame Cathedral is on fire. So now they're not even going to the cup draw yet. John Wilkin and Paul Sculthorpe are stood somewhere behind Tulson Tollick waiting to pull out those big balls that say we're going to take on Doncaster. But at the moment there's a big fire in Paris.
I tell you what, we can take on Doncaster will beat Wigan.
Well, you may as well go for it. Of course, Doncaster will get Leeds, as we all know.
Can we have a note for the Golden Point King, Mark Sneyd?
Mark Sneyd. Well, we've been told, you know, Scully, you've got to give him credit now. That's 2 games he's won.
Yeah, it's a bit of a machine.
Yeah. King of the Golden Point.
And found touch from the kick-off as well.
But also too, if it wasn't for Willian doing that stupid thing anyway, Hull would have lost from there. But listen, I'll say it again, and I keep repeating myself. And I've had my mate Cruxian from France, Carl Sanderson, the ex-Hull player, and they put an Hull fan on there. And what do you think about Mark Sneyd? I said I'll tell you about Mark Sneyd, and I repeat myself again. He's the best kicker. He's the best kicker in Super League. If you want a man to kick you a drop goal in Golden Point, there's no better than Mark Sneyd. But what I will say is a halfback. He's not a halfback for me because he doesn't create anything with the ball in hand. He doesn't do enough for me. Yeah, and that's his game. Hold on. With a kicking game. And when I mention, are
you putting too high a standard? I mean, he's not going to be Jonathan Thurston, but he's not a ball runner. But he is very good at organising.
But John,
kicking,
but John, right? Well, let me put it in context here now, right? Who was Salford coach who got rid of Mark Sneyd? Was it Phil Vivas or whoever?
I'm not sure. He's a friend of yours, isn't he?
Well, right. So he didn't want him, right? And then the next one was Darryl Powell didn't want him because he doesn't run with the ball. He doesn't create with the ball in hand. And if I was head coaching, I wouldn't have it in my side because I want a halfback who can create with the ball in hand. Now I get what he gets. I get what he brings.
Is that why him and Albert Kelly is a good partnership? Because Albert Kelly is a bit of a maverick. He runs the ball. You're not really sure what he's going to do.
Or Jake Connor.
Yeah, they're completely different players.
Do you think Lee Radford got it right by starting Kelly on the bench?
I'll tell you what, I thought it was an excellent call, and because when Albert Kelly came on, he was simply outstanding. John, I agree with you. They've got the perfect half-back partnership because Kelly will do the organising. He's a maverick of a player, and then Sneyd will just do what Mark Sneyd does, and that just waits until the fourth and fifth tackle with a kicking game. Yeah, Phil. Yeah, I'll agree with the drop kick. And what have I said about setting up for drop kicks? It was an absolute pleasure to watch.
Yes.
Sneedy. I could. The conversation would be exactly as I said to me and Maskey. You know where I am on the fourth tackle.
Just pointing where he wants.
That's exactly what Sneedy said.
We'll have one more drive.
What he said to Danny Out, and you could see Danny Out just looking. Yeah, I know
you ready?
You are.
Are you ready?
I know you are. And then
just get it a bit nearer.
You know when I'm ready. Bang, bang, bang. Good night, God bless. And they deserve the 2 points. But also, 12. Apart from that, how good. And do you know what? Lee Radford, take a bow, son. On the first account, Hull Kisser over 3 weeks ago, what did they do when they went to Huddersfield? Moan, moan, moan. We've got injuries, we've got a crap bench. We've got injuries, we've got a rubbish bench, that's why we can't win. You know what, Lee Radford? Went to Catalans, never moaned about the injuries, and when them young kids came on from there, and I said to Lee after the game, I said, you know what, mate? You should be proud of them boys because they did you proud because you know what? You haven't moaned about picking young kids. Do you know what? His simple message was quite clear. Scully, they were fearless. Them young kids going into Catalans, you know what they'd be like? Oh, I'll tell you what, bring it on. Lee, don't just give me 10, give me 15. They absolutely loved that challenge, and do you know what? They battered the big Catalans forwards. Do you know what, Radders? Well done, and well done to them young players because they were simply outstanding. Well done to Mark Sneed, the pressure what was on him, not just kicking that goal from the halfway, getting the drop goal, but also as well with the organisation and also to Albert Kelly. You put a marker down and fully deserved the victory.
I thought Connor Wynne was excellent. You'd think they would have really missed Jamie Shaw at fullback, but he looks like...
His debut the week before at Salford, I was there, he looked really calm, collected, quick.
And it's taken Hull a while. We've said over the course of the last couple of years that there does seem to be a lot of youngsters produced that get discarded. They don't get a chance. You would hope now that the way Connor Wynne's playing, that Jack Brown looks like he could handle himself, that they get a bit more game time when of the established guys come back.
Yeah, put a marker down. Yeah,
give him a chance.
Well, Danny Langtry didn't last long, did he? He's left the club.
Brilliant.
So.
And though Adam Pearson's come out today in one of the papers saying it's marquee signings and a lot of recruitment next year.
There is a theory, which I'm going to ask you if you subscribe to or not, that Hull don't perhaps play enough young players in their squad.
I don't think they... Well, I think there's got to be the quality there.
Well, I'll tell you what,
but I don't think
on Saturday they proved they could handle it.
I don't think enough of them get an extended run. Now that might be because Lee Radford.
Same with every club. They'll always go. They'll always pick the overseas journeyman. Manu, and Minicello, doesn't matter. Good, bad, and indifferent. How they play, they will get picked. If they put their hands up to be selected, they will get selected.
Talking of Australians coming over, I wouldn't use the phrase journeyman. Chase Blair, great signing for Castleford. And he hasn't played a lot of NRL in the last 2 years, but he's been in that Melbourne system.
And he broke his ankle in 2007. I think great signing is over-egging it, but I think it could be a good signing. He was at Parramatta. He did okay there. Didn't set the world. Went to Manly. Was okay. When he moved to Melbourne, I think he did excel in the games. I mean, he's obviously playing in an elite team with champion players, but he did seem to thrive under that Craig Bellamy.
What position is
he? He's a centre, but he can play on the wing as well. But he is a centre.
Does that mean that Greg Minigan won't get a deal? Do you think?
I think Greg Minigan's on his way out of the club. I think that's not a surprise. I think defensively, Greg Minigan, that's where, and I think that the edge defence for Castleford's been an issue. But I think Chase Blair, he should do quite well in Super League. I think he's a solid. He's not a world beater. He's not a Greg Inglis.
Hey John, but it's not the edge defence of Castleford. It's the hookers. Max Shane won't pass the ball for a drop kick, and Milner won't pass the ball because he's egg in opposition. It's a hooker that Castleford got a problem with.
And
again, I think some of their defence has been very poor, particularly against Leeds and Wigan, personally. But
again, with
some of the decisions you see wingers and centres racing off their line to try and shut down.
No, well, that used to do every week.
But you couldn't tackle though.
It's a bit harsh. Hey, listen. What would you do if Marvel England GMLs were running you?
I would have been running the other way.
Get out of the way like I did.
I would have been on the field. That's
with the white flag.
I would have said I'll wait to play France.
I would like a commentator, number 4 pointer.
Dive after they've gone. We need to warm up on my calf. It's a bit tired. I don't think I should play this week.
It's a number 4 pointer.
Again, with your inside knowledge of the NRL, Ava Samanafanai. Good signing for Leeds, or again 2,800 and odd NRL games, size.
Yeah, he's a big unit. I think watching Leeds against Warrington on Friday, as you did. I mean, obviously you've got a Super League team against a League One team, but Wellington Albert really made a punch in the middle. He was offloading. He caused a bit of havoc. So I think David Furner. I mean, he hasn't been a secret, has it? He's not been happy. Well, from what I've heard, he's not happy with the players he's got. He wants to make changes, particularly in the forwards. I think they're getting beat in the middle.
They're losing the contact.
As well as, they are. And I mean, he keeps saying about the soft defence. It's defence, well, I think there's 3 areas. I think it's the goal line defence, the middle, and also the organisation and the halfbacks. And it wasn't a surprise on Friday to see Tui Lola here thrive at fullback. He looked like a completely different player, didn't he? I mean,
Which won't do his confidence anyhow, but you can't read too much into it.
no.
In fact, we can talk after the draw's made, should it ever be made.
About the game, yeah.
Well, about whether we should have this round of the Challenge Cup with Super League teams in it. What actually does it prove? Now, Halifax came up with a shock against London, but they are two very well-matched teams who the year before there wasn't that much difference between them. But when you're talking about full-time, fully professional teams against part-time players who've worked a shift the morning before, do we need to get away from that if we're talking about...
How are we going to address it then?
Well, you can play the Challenge Cup till there are only 4 teams left from the Championship and League One, and those 4 go up against the 12 Super League clubs. So you still get that element of
So you don't put the
romance.
Super League clubs against them?
Yeah. So what you do is you just take the Super League teams out of this round.
Yeah, out of this round.
Because unfortunately, I thought the Workington fans were great. You knew they would be. They brought quite a few coaches down, and the guys on the Carnegie Terrace really made sure they enjoyed. But after 10 minutes, it was 24-0. It was the same at Salford against Rochdale, and although
that was 4,000.
And although Workington will go back with 3 times more money than they would have had for a normal home game, and partly that's what it's about. As a contest, it isn't one.
I'll tell you what though as well, because I've been speaking to my good friends up at Workington. You know what? They were absolutely delighted with the response I've had from Leeds, because Leeds went up for the week. I mean, they did some coaching settings up there.
Conrad Harrell did a bit of social media work.
You know, the response what they've had from Gary Everton, the response they've had from the Leeds club, the players, the way the supporters were looked after.
Players all went and had their pictures with the Workington fans afterwards, both teams together.
So the Workington club were absolutely delighted, the respect that Leeds Rhinos have given him for the Challenge Cup. So well done to Gary Everton, and well done to the Leeds club for the respect what you showed.
But I mean, even Salford Rochdale, which is a local derby, 1,000 people there.
Well, I think we'll talk more about the Cup after it has been made, because there is a point to be made about the crowds. Apparently the draw actually might be made soon. I'm just trying to get it on now. Daniel says we should just do the draw ourselves. That'd be a perfect idea. Dale says, forget about muting Chris Kendall. What about the cowbell, which was ringing loud and proud as Huddersfield beat the Castleford Tigers 20 points to 18. As mentioned, Adam Milner with a brilliant sin binning right when he had a chance of actually doing something in that game.
Did he get put in the bin, did he?
He did.
Did he get put in the bin, did he?
Yeah.
With 2 minutes to go.
I thought it was just a penalty
In
again.
fairness, Paulie got
put him in the bin,
something
did
after
he?
the Hooters.
Oh,
That was good.
right.
20 points to 18. Huddersfield, I said this to Jermaine McGilvery earlier, and you'll be able to see that on our social media channels at some point in the next few days. Huddersfield have kind of snuck up on everyone, because no one talks about Huddersfield, because no one cares. So they've gone on this run, lost to Wakefield the other week, but that was their only blip in 4 or 5 games.
Up to 8th.
Exactly. The league is a concertina, and they are one of these teams who, if they win a couple of games over the Easter period, are right in the mix. If they lose, they're not. It's a strange old run, but they are beating Castleford, who are an inconsistent team at the moment, although they're still 3rd. This is a very strange Super League season. No one knows what's going on. But credit to Huddersfield, no credit to the Bell. They are doing well in the table, and Alex Miller with that hat-trick.
I do admire
Alex
the passion
Miller
of the Huddersfield fans to defend the cowbell against all,
Against everyone
evidence of the contrary. Yeah.
So Huddersfield have re-signed Darnell McIntosh today, but Alex Mellor's still out of contract. He had a terrific game on
He's really thrived
Thursday
in
night.
that move into the back row, hasn't he? He seems a completely different player. Yeah.
Someone said the Cup Draw's going to be on 3 a.m. on CBeebies. Thanks to Chris. I haven't got the BBC website up, but it's not up yet. There's nothing you can do about major news. Speaking of news, by the way, Billy Winnipolo, Saracens, just giving him a slap on the wrist. So, well done to them.
Should we talk about Israel Folau possibly coming to Super League?
He's like one of those people in the world of commercial broadcasting. When people leave and go to the BBC, they change their names and become posh and forget their heritage. And that's Izzy Folau. Who is Izzy Folau?
It's just a nickname,
It's
Rich. It's just
and
a nickname. We use nicknames in Australia.
But you can't let him in, can you?
Would you let him in?
I think
In a competition that's crying out for marquee players, he is an undoubted marquee player.
Who's going to sign him? Who would sign him?
I can think of a couple of clubs who would sign him.
The stupidest thing he has
Catalans,
done is go public with his views.
Well, more than once.
Well, let's it can't be only he has these views in the world of sport, right? But he's stupid enough to espouse them to the world at large.
The Challenge Cup draw is now being made on the BBC
Well,
online. It has been
I'm
dropped
online.
for Sports Day
So get your letters
because
into the BBC.
of
Points
the
of
Paris
view.
fire.
So-
There is no Sports Day.
There is
So-
no sport today. I'm waiting for it to come up, but it's not yet. Not there yet.
Tell you what, them hot balls are in that bag, they're
Oh,
going
no,
cold.
They're going cold now. Leeds
Eh?
are going to get Wigan. What's going on? Leeds and Saints.
The draw is going to be a lot of cold balls tonight, I'll tell you. There won't be no hot balls in there, they're all gone cold.
The problem we've got as a sport is, and again this goes back to Ben Barber's not allowed to play, but people who have been convicted of the same crime he's accused of are playing in Super League, is that there are people who, and I know there's a difference between believing homosexuals should go to hell,
Not just homosexuals.
and fornicators,
trans.
adulterers.
Yeah. So you're
atheists.
going to hell.
So
as well.
he'd have no teammates then. That's
Ah,
part of the
isn't it?
problem.
It's a bit harsh.
There's a difference between him.
Atheist as well. You're an atheist.
What does that mean? What is it?
There is only one
You
true
don't
God, and
believe
that
in
is Gary
God.
Schofield.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say wear my dressing gown to Morrison's.
I don't think he's too big on that either. Yeah.
But you can't. The problem is, again, there are people within Rugby League who have been banned for making homophobic comments. It's the double standard of where do we go? I don't know what we do. I don't think there is a right answer.
Listen, I don't think he's worth talking about, so let's move on. Let's move on.
I don't disagree. The draw will be made shortly. Do we need to say anything more about Huddersfield and Castleford? No, fair enough. Wakefield and Wigan. We haven't really spoken about this apart from the ill discipline, but being there at the match, Wakefield never looked in trouble. It was hilarious, especially David Fifita, the king of Wakefield. 16 seconds to go until half time. Again, you'll see this on social media later. Wigan kick off. It ends up in the arms of the new king of Bellevue, who decides, sod it, I'm off on a run. Runs down the left wing. Still no idea what he's doing. Max Jowett on his inside, passes the ball, gets to Jowett. He runs on, scores a try. Crowd goes wild. Wakefield go from 4-0 down to 16-4 up within 5 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous. But Wigan never looked like coming.
How far did he run then for feet when he caught that ball?
About 20 metres or so.
Did he?
No, it's
Oh,
more than
it's
that.
about 40.
I'd say about 40.
What, so the Wigan defence just touched him and he didn't
He
stop?
just went round. He just went through him.
Yeah.
No,
And then
no
pass
attempt
it
at tackling?
inside to Jowett. And Jowett scored.
He's
After
playing the
that.
best footy of his
Yeah.
career.
It's
I mean,
almost as if there's a new contract up for him.
but the thing
I
is
don't
though.
wanna say, someone said that in the gents at half time, and I thought, it's a bit harsh.
He's
Why
putting,
would
he's
he go?
putting, he's
Why
putting
would he
value
go?
on himself.
Why would he go anywhere else?
He
though?
doesn't- he
Because
shouldn't.
he's happy there.
But-
he's always had potential. He's
I
never
think
reached it, but he's reaching.
Every
it now.
time he sits down with Michael Carter across the table, it'll
Yeah.
be it's another North.
I think that's what Chris Chester and Michael Carter are, because every time he scores these tries or sets them up,
And they put the
his
contracts
ego
in
goes
front
a
of
little
him.
bit
They
higher
go,
and
just put another note on there.
Could he be the David Fifita at Wakefield at another club? Obviously, Leeds were linked with him at the start of the season. He doesn't strike me as a player who could go to Leeds and be David Fifita, because at Wakefield, he's a big fish.
Big
and I don't want
fish,
people
yeah.
to get
Yeah.
the wrong impression. I'm not being, wait for the rubbish, because, I support them, but it's a slightly smaller pool
Yeah.
at Wakefield for him to
I
be
think-
a superstar.
At Wakefield, I think what you get with Fifita as well, he gets away with stuff where he wouldn't get, i.e. from a point of view, he wouldn't get away with at a Warrington or a Saints or a Leeds or a Wigan or maybe a Castle from a point of view, discipline-wise, because he gives some silly penalties away at times. He has a bit of a back chat to referees at times. He does some spectacular stuff. So what Fifita's got at Wakefield is a free roll, isn't it?
he's happy.
Yeah, exactly. He's having to say with that smile on his face, but everywhere, every time that Fifita's played, from the first game since he's come to Wakefield, even to the last game now, he's just been allowed to express himself, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and he doesn't get told off for it. He will get picked week in and week out, and rightly so, with his form. But from a point of view with Fifita, if he was at the bigger club, he wouldn't get away with the stuff what he does at Wakefield.
Yeah.
Would he?
No,
he
I
wouldn't.
agree.
No,
I
he
agree.
wouldn't. So.
But he's
obviously-
also playing under a coach that is giving him the license to
the
play with a
licence,
smile on
correct,
his face,
to express himself.
which you may not get.
He
You
wouldn't
know,
get it.
in another team environment,
wouldn't get it.
with a coach who perhaps has
Correct.
more of a structured
More
view on
disciplined,
things.
yeah, more structure. He wouldn't get it from there. So I would say, Phil, you keep mentioning another note on any of his contracts. I would imagine every game now, what Mr. Fifita's playing, it'll be an extra £5,000. And that's another 5.
So not at the front.
That, whatever he's on now, every game, he's playing.
Extra pies.
That's another 5.
That 2-year deal, it's now gone up to 3,
Correct.
with an option in my favour.
My internet is frozen, but the draw's been made.
Hooray!
Salford Hull KR is the first night of the box. That won't be on the telly. John Wilkin, by the way, turned up like he's on this programme. Could have worn a suit or something. Even Tulson Tollett's got
He's
a tie
come all the
on.
way from Toronto, Rich.
England's
It's a long
Tulson
flight.
Tollett there with a tie on.
Salford Hull KR.
Yeah, my feed's on.
£1 million.
I'm just relying on, relying on everyone else just to tell me what's going on. Dewsbury Halifax.
So that's going to leave some big men playing each other.
That's a tester.
This is great TV, great internet. They've all gone off to watch it anyway, haven't they? We know you're doing that.
No,
John Wilkins frozen.
they're doing both.
Come on, Forty20 on Facebook. Update it quicker. So Salford Hull KR, Dewsbury Halifax, Warrington Wigan. Oh, there you go. TV straight on there.
Milwaukee all over again.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Wigan aren't going to Wembley this year. Brilliant.
Well, that'll be on BBC.
Hey, listen. Do you know why? Do you know why I'm saying this? Do you know why now I'm totally going against Wigan? The way they have treated my mate Shaun Wayne.
Oh, come
Well,
on.
What about the way Shaun Edwards has treated them?
They would not be in this mess.
Scully,
if Shaun Wayne
you're
was in
talking
charge.
rubbish.
Bradford
You're
Leeds!
talking-
Bradford Leeds!
Bradford Leeds.
Come on,
Wow.
Leeds. Smash them,
Hey,
Leeds! Come on, Leeds!
the
Come on,
ki-
Rhinos.
Leeds in crisis.
Bradford
Come on, the
Leeds.
Rhinos.
The
Jordan
tie
Lilly.
John Keir asked for.
Jordan
Jordan
Rhinos.
Is that
Lilly looking for revenge.
the Chalmers
Hold on,
Hetherington Cup?
why am I talking rubbish about Shaun Wayne then?
No, Shaun Edwards, you said.
No, I said Shaun Wayne.
No, you said Edwards.
I did. I said Shaun Wayne.
Bradford
You
Leeds.
said Edwards. That's
Bradford
why.
Leeds.
No,
Yeah.
Edwards. No,
Yeah,
Hull
that's what you
Cast.
said. That's why I was.
Oh, I
Yeah.
apologise.
Hullcast.
Shaun Wayne.
Hullcast.
Hullcast. Many repeats.
The Liam
semi-finals,
Watts
Yeah.
Cup.
Sorry, I apologise. It's Shaun Wayne.
That makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shaun Wayne, not Shaun Edwards. No.
Well, I'm presuming we're going to talk about Shaun Edwards a little bit
We
later.
will do.
Yeah.
We will do. I'm just waiting for all these ties to complete. Bradford Leeds are going to be on the telly. Catalans Doncaster.
Ooh,
Nice
poor
trip for the Dons.
Poor Doncaster.
Sure, Carl will be looking forward to that. Yeah, Warrington, Wigan, Bradford, Leeds. Those got to be the TV
Huddersfield,
games.
St Helens.
No, that's not on TV.
It's Huddersfield St Helens, is it?
Warrington fans are really happy about playing Wigan again. Although their Magic Weekend shirts are lovely.
Illawarra Steelers.
There are some nice... wait for your witness. Get in. Wembley, we're coming.
It's a repeat of the final.
It is. Book your
79.
I can see Witness pulling off an upset now.
Pete Smith, he's boiling whatever it is on Twitter. The biggest derby in Rugby League is back. Bradford Leeds.
Can we just stop trying to one-up each other about every derby? It's a bit
Where's
sad.
that one? Where's that, Bradford?
Yeah, no, also. You'll be all right.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll be there with
there'll be a
Nigel.
phone call. Hello,
Nigel,
that box.
When is it? What
Mr.
day is
Wood?
it?
May the 11th and 12th.
It may not be here. Maybe.
So it's the week
It doesn't matter. You can leave you the key.
Would you like another pie, Mr. Wood? Yep. What else
we
can I get?
can-
Yeah.
I'll
A little
be
sugar in
close
that
to
coffee,
my
Mr.
I'll
Wood.
be giving Nigel. I'll be giving Mr. Chalmers a ring to. I'll be booking my place.
Is that it now?
I'll
Is
be
that all the
there.
draw?
I'll be there.
Is there any more draw to be made? I don't know any more teams.
I don't think so.
Bradford.
So there you go.
Leeds, eh?
There's
Boy,
the
oh, boy.
Challenge Cup draw. Salford Hull KR, that won't be on telly. Dewsbury Halifax, Warrington Wigan, Bradford Leeds, Hull FC Cass, Catalans Doncaster, Huddersfield St Helens, Wakefield Widnes. Have we missed anyone else?
That's 8, I think.
So there you go. Excitement. Catalans, they could be defending their cup.
Poor Doncaster.
Oh, they'll like that. Nice trip away, all paid
Sure
for.
they will, Phil.
No, they will.
I'm sure they will.
In exciting news, we made it to 340th in the Luxembourg podcast charts
That's
last
not
week,
bad.
and made it into New Zealand thanks to our Women's
Wow.
Rugby League specials. That was good. Do download all our podcasts because I understand there's more competition coming back. It seems.
So, do we give people our big news now that the
big
cup
news.
draw's been made?
Obviously, next week is Easter Monday, and there's lots of rugby on. What can we do? Blame the RFL or Super League or someone. I blame Robert Elston. That's the de rigueur thing to do.
If you can find
Who
it.
was on national radio this morning?
He was on the telly as well all the time at the Catalans game. They kept
He's
shouting at
alive.
the crowd.
promoting
Behind Bernard Gouache.
promoting the weekend and the Camp Nou.
Is that a concern, Phil, that he's gone missing from about
Well, he's back now.
round 2 to about round 10?
No, not necessarily. It
No?
depends what
Hashtag new beginnings?
depends what he's got to announce. This is a big weekend for him. I mean, he was on national radio this morning saying that he was hoping for a record crowd over this Good Friday weekend.
Just hoping.
As a round.
They won't fill Wigan St Helens away. We're going to play.
Well, Saints have sold their 5,000 allocation,
which is great.
which is fantastic. I'm not sure that they can do any more on the way that they're playing at the moment.
To the fans.
And fantastic that Warrington took 3,500 to St Helens, and that was nearly 18,000 this week. The worry is how many Wigan fans will turn up.
They won't start there. No.
Huddersfield Leeds won't be a huge attendance.
Is that Huddersfield or Leeds?
Yeah, Leeds.
Right.
So yeah, you'll get 13,000, 14,000, but it's not the days of Leeds and Bradford in their pomp. I'm not sure.
The whole derby will sell out. Now Hull won.
I don't know if it'll be a sellout because it's at Hull and they won't get 20,000. I don't know.
Oh, they will. I bet you they will.
The Wakefield Cast. What would you expect on a Thursday night?
It'll be almost a sellout.
It's at Cass, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at Cass. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. The weather's going to be great this Easter weekend. 22, 23 degrees.
Good weekend to have a barbecue. If the weather's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I'll call it the week after, haven't I?
Still waiting for the invite.
I'll forward you.
What invite?
Exactly. You still owe me that pint.
It's all going, by the way, on YouTube. The comments. Jordan Lilly to score the winner, then kiss the Bulls bench, says Craig. Bradford lead, says David. A bit one-sided, to be honest, in Bradford's favour. Bradford,
I'll tell you what, I was listening to that game yesterday on the radio. It was sensational. Yeah. Featherstone were in the draw. Mm-hmm. They were in the draw, and then for some reason, for 8 minutes, it just was bang, bang, bang. The Bulls just woke up, and it were amazing the way they came back into that game. Whatever messages were being sent on from John Keir, we'd like to know, wouldn't we? Because there was only one side in that game, and that was Featherstone Rovers. And I know my good mate Mark Campbell's absolutely furious from a point of view of losing, but
especially as he now would have had his dual registered team at home.
But he would have had a massive crowd. Would have had a massive crowd there at Featherstone.
Sorry, it's Simon Johnson, but not Brian.
But the Bulls,
really, interim.
I do enjoy the fact that David is keeping count of how many bits of cake Scully's eaten.
Is it 8 or 9?
10 apparently.
Well, it was full, and I've had one. So
not good news for John. Winners wanted a money spinner away. We got Wakefield. You got a crowd. Speaking of Fev and Leeds, I'll do the women's bit now here. I was concerned halfway through the game when Leeds ran out of players that they'd have to take some from Fev on Joe Reg. But I don't know if that counts in women's rugby league as well. I thought it was an entertaining game, although apparently I was in the minority. Featherstone 16, Leeds 24. You can see the post-match stuff on our YouTube and Facebook and whatever. Thanks to my helper who got me the interviews in the first place. Leeds went into a lead of 20 points to 6, and then Fev fought back. They're a very physical side. I enjoyed the game. You forget for a bit that it's women and it's just people bashing each other. It was great, which is what it should be. It's just rugby league. But Leeds, some of their players look a bit, I don't want to say frail, it's not the right word, but not as
athletic.
Yeah, there's some worrying injuries for Leeds in that game, and played the end of the game without the bench.
Who is the fullback, Rich, at Leeds?
Caitlin Beavers.
Yeah,
she
went
is
down
quick.
Injured. She is, but unfortunately she went down injured early on in the game, but trying to play on, which I don't know if it was a wise decision or not. As we see with rugby league players of whatever gender, sometimes they think they're tougher than they are against the better judgment. But she went off with I think it was a hip injury. Sophie Robinson, an awful moment where she just ran with the ball and went down and you screamed in pain, and you sat there on the sidelines thinking, no. So hopefully she's okay. I tell you who's a star, and I enjoyed watching her play because you can't beat wind-up merchants. And I don't know her personally, so I don't know if she's like it. Charlotte Booth, she comes across, she likes winding up the opposition players. And I know she's your favourite player, Phil. Danielle Anderson. How is she a number 10? She's tiny. She's a tiny prop forward.
But she's got all the skills.
Oh yeah, it was. I enjoy myself,
including fearlessness.
I'm enjoying these games, and you should go watch them. 2 weeks' time, and this is shocking scheduling. Cass versus Leeds, 1 o'clock.
The two of the unbeaten teams.
Yep. And then Leeds men playing the same afternoon at 3 o'clock at Headingley. So you can't really do both, which is a crying shame, but very much enjoyed it. Yes, what a win for Cass at Wigan, says Paul. Very big result for them, beating last year's champions, who are now without a victory. 36-14. I did make the point on Twitter yesterday. I know people kind of pulled me up on it. I would rather have watched Wigan and Cass versus ahead of the Thatto Heath Dewsbury game, and I know it went on to be kind of close, but it's a bigger fight. It's a bigger dog in the fight. I don't know. And Wakefield won. Go on, Wakefield. Beat York 10-6 in a close game, which you'd expect for two teams at the bottom end of the table. And it's an interesting table so far. Cass and Leeds, two unbeaten sides, but got to give the edge to Cass going into that game in a couple of weeks' time. But I'm not an expert, so we'll see what happens in 2 weeks at the Jungle. Get yourself down there. And well done to Hull KR and Warrington, who played their first games this weekend as well. Warrington beating Widnes in the Championship, and Hull KR beating Rochdale in League One. I don't know if it was Rochdale's first game as well, I think it might have been, but another good weekend of Women's Rugby League. Hopefully we'll have more coverage here in the future. It is difficult, as I said earlier, due to A, time, B, no money, but we'll try and do our best, and certainly have some pre-match stuff, post-match stuff rather, from that Castleford and Leeds game in a few weeks' time. Should we talk about Shaun Edwards before we get on to looking back at the Challenge Cup? Because obviously this is the biggest story in Rugby League today, because I was on TalkSport 2 talking about it. They phoned me up and said, come on and talk about Shaun Edwards. I said,
Can you get the statement up, Rich? Because it's a great statement to savour.
What happens is,
it's one of the great statements.
What is it? What have they said?
Producer at TalkSport 2
Rich will read it out for you.
They go through a list of people, and my name's at the bottom of the list, and say, oh, can you come on and talk about Shaun Edwards? Oh, I basically just say, well, you'll be unsurprised, because everyone's pretty much worked out from January when he said, well, you know, no, I'm not, do I want this job? No, I don't know. No, I might stay in Rugby Union. And then we all knew then. And Wigan should probably have come out at that point and said that, shouldn't they? But they didn't, and they, like a love-struck teenager involved in unrequited love, they kept on hoping that one day Shaun Edwards would come and take the bait. They would be walking hand in hand through whatever the park is in Wigan, enjoying each other's company. But sadly, Shaun Edwards got the look from the other side and say, actually, I think Welsh Rugby Union is slightly prettier than you, and I'm going there instead. Here is the statements, joint statements indeed, from Wigan Warriors and Shaun Edwards. Oh,
they've got his phone. They found him.
Yeah, loads of words in this one. Wigan Warriors can today confirm that Shaun Edwards will not take up the head coach position next year. Edwards, who initially agreed to take on the role in August 2018, confirmed his intentions to Wigan chairman and owner Ian Lenigan on Sunday afternoon. Shaun Edwards said, can't do the voice, after much thought and deliberation, I wish to clarify my situation. You can tell he's been in Rugby Union. I will not.
Or he's got a very good solicitor.
Oh, that, yeah. I will not be taking up the head coaching role at Wigan. The reason being my lack of preparation. World Cup preparations have been brought forward a month, and as a result, I will be unable to spend 8 weeks in Australia as planned on Rugby League. I feel Wigan need a more experienced Rugby League head coach than myself, much like they would have done 12 months ago, to give the club and the people of Wigan the best team possible. Don't sell your players. The Wigan deal I recently received is very favourable to all other offers I've had so far. For me, this is not about money. This is about Wigan Warriors getting the best man for the job.
Which I was in August, but not.
Yeah, so when he agreed to have the job and did a press conference August last year, he was prepared enough.
Wigan Warriors
and the right man for the job.
And the right man for the job.
Ian Lenigan said, I've been conversing with Shaun for a number of weeks since finding his phone number, since the completion of the Six Nations. And yesterday, Shaun revealed to me that he thought the combination of circumstances meant he would be underprepared to take on the Wigan head coach job in November 2019, like the squad. He clearly feels that he is not the best man to take the team forward currently, and I have to respect this, and accept this rather. Like every Wiganer, I wanted Shaun to lead the team, and this very honest admission has taken me by surprise. I've always admired Shaun.
I don't know why, we've been telling him since January.
Shaun Edwards has been telling the media for weeks.
He's on Radio 4.
When and if. I haven't signed a contract. You know.
I've always admired Shaun, and I wish him well with whatever he does next at the Welsh Rugby Union. For me, now, our next steps are to confirm the coaching structure for 2020 and beyond, and draw a line under the last few months, and give our loyal fans the clarity they deserve. It's funny if they've been taken off the team sheet this year. I'd like to thank our supporters for their patience and understanding in what has proven to be a very difficult situation to navigate. It's a long sentence. And now we can concentrate on building more strong foundations to drive this wonderful club forward. We will announce our plans in due course. Poor old Adrian Lamb, brought over here as some kind of patsy to do the stuff while Shaun Edwards is busy prattling around in Rugby Union, and now he's not coming. And Adrian Lamb's just sat there going,
What an absolute farce. Just, you know. That statement as well, I mean, You just got to shake your head. I mean, who's gullible enough to believe that?
It's a well prepared by both parties to extricate themselves in blatant legalese from a position where either could have sued the other.
But if Shaun Edwards went to Ian Lannigan in January or whatever, whenever he had his doubts, because obviously during the Six Nations he was leaking to journalists every week to try and wrangle him his way out of what he'd agreed to.
Although he hadn't signed.
No, but he'd agreed, and as far as Ian Lannigan and everyone else in Rugby League, because he was out there talking and presented himself as the next coach, if he'd gone to him and said, I'm having second thoughts, I don't think Ian Lannigan would have said, he would have, as this shows, he would have gone, okay.
Does anybody come out of this smelling of roses?
No. I think Shaun Edwards comes out the worst.
Well, that's the thing. I was asked this morning on the radio, and they said, will this ruin his reputation? I said, well, you can't take away what he did as a player, but if you look at St Helens, this was the example I used. Kieran Cunningham, great player, won all those trophies and whatever. He doesn't tarnish that legacy, but failed as a coach. And people will always remember that. And people remember now Shaun Edwards seemingly reneging on the deal.
I don't think there's any seemingly about it, to be honest.
But if Wigan had desperately wanted their man, would they not have tied him up right at the very beginning?
I don't think it's as straightforward as
Well, I don't think it's as straightforward as he doesn't think that he has got the experience to do the job. I think that's partly the assurances that he would have wanted to do that job. He may not have felt that he was having. But that's why I don't think anybody comes out of this.
No, they don't.
This isn't a Wigan way of doing business.
Correct.
If he is the man that they wanted from the off, that they unveiled in August, who was prepared to take the job in August, then they have to also take an element of responsibility for him now not coming and being their coach.
What I also find interesting is he was linked with the Wasps job. He was linked with England, the head coach. He's just staying in the same job, which is as a defence coach, as an assistant. It's not like he's actually stepping up to a better job. I mean, that's another slap in the face.
Is that a slap in the face for Rugby League?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Did anyone? I mean, you know him better than everyone, Scully.
Yeah, you know him.
Are you surprised by what has happened or anything regarding this situation?
Well, I said it before, didn't I? Shaun's, since he left Rugby League, he's never, ever, even in amateur side, he's never coached Rugby League. Never coached a Rugby League side. We know what a great job he's done in Rugby Union. And what Shaun said was, if he ever came back into Rugby League, the first thing he would require would be 2 quality assistant coaches. Not 1, but 2 quality assistant coaches. And then we all know with the backroom staff from the condisters and the physios and this sort of thing. But
psychologists.
Rubbish stuff. Psychologists. And but one thing what's been mentioning now when Shaun says, well, and one thing Shaun Edwards has never been as a player, and also so I would imagine as a defence coach with Wales, is lack of preparation. Shaun Edwards has never ever been short of lack of preparation. So for him to be saying, so obviously after the World Cup, he was maybe looking to go to Australia to study whatever the Aussies are studying now, whichever club he was going to go to. I know he's a big mate of Wayne Bennett's, so he may be going to Sal's from there. So I've got to agree with you, John. I just think it's an absolute shambles. It's a cop-out from both sides. Shaun's all of a sudden decided Rugby League's not for me anymore. The game of Rugby Union is far better for me. He's based down in the south. That's where all his family is from there. Wigan are in a mess.
What do they do now?
That's the next question.
I mean, obviously,
they're in a complete mess, and it's been a shambles.
They're floundering on the field. So it's likely, at this stage, if you had to make an appointment for next year, it probably wouldn't be Adrian Lamb. Now, it may not be his fault that they're floundering.
It would be a big risk to give it to Adrian Lamb.
But I don't know what,
I'll tell you what we can do. I'll tell you what we can do.
Well, the first thing is,
not going to do it.
Ian, they won't ask him back. Ian Lennigan...
Well, they should do.
Right.
He should do. He should save face,
but he
bite
won't.
his bottom lip,
but I don't...
Kick himself up the backside.
Ian
Lennigan should kick himself up the backside and bring Shaun Wayne back.
I'm not sure they could work together now, but let's assume that one of the reasons Wigan was so keen on getting Shaun Edwards was to win back the trust of their fans by bringing back a previous legend of the club. So they can't do it at the moment with necessarily the money they can spend on the playing squad. So they wanted to galvanise the fans they've lost around the returning hero. Returning hero now isn't coming, which leaves egg on the face of both parties. Adrian Lamb, who they put in as a stopgap because the big returning hero was coming, perhaps is not the person now that the fans would accept as being a long-term option.
I think if the team was winning, they would accept it.
Yeah, but they're not. And injuries aside, which have clearly affected Wigan, you can't see them necessarily turning that around this season. So Lamb will be saddled with the fact that he...
Lamb's going to the slaughter, don't worry about that.
They were the defending champions in the world.
That's the smartest thing you've said in years.
Well, I'm always saying smart things on this show. He's going to the slaughter, don't worry about that.
So who do they go for?
Sean Wayne, I'm telling you.
James Flanagan.
Sean Wayne's got to come back.
I think it's been proven that the Trent Barrett rumour was
Well, I
nothing
think he's
but,
going to St George now, isn't he?
Yeah, I
As
don't
part of their
think
staff.
Trent Barrett was ever coming. I don't think there was much.
Mr.
Mr.
Lanigan has got to...
But
he's got to bite the bullet. Him and
let's say...
Redlinski have got to bite the bullet and get Sean Wayne back as soon as possible.
Well, and let's say they won't or Sean Wayne won't come. Because let's not forget that it wasn't just Sean Wayne that went, it was all of his backroom staff, never mind the players that he wanted to keep.
Most of them.
So let's say Sean Wayne wouldn't come back.
Sean Wayne.
Who do they go for?
Well, that's a good question.
There's not really a lot of... I mean,
I tell you what,
could you see someone like Dennis Betts, another former legend, when they've already had him before?
Right, who would want to go to Wigan working under Lanigan and Radlinski?
Oh, I still think it's.
I think it's if
an
you were
attractive job.
if you were somebody like, let's say, James Ford, who is one of the top British coaches coming off the ranks, if Wigan rang you up, you'd go like a shot. But will they go for somebody of unproven potential, which is the exact opposite of the high-profile signing they wanted with Shaun Edwards?
What about Sean O'Loughlin?
I don't think you can.
Can you go straight
out with no coaching?
He'd be a great assistant.
Yeah, I think the long-term plan is to get him as an assistant, and then
Paul
maybe
Deacon?
one day. Well, they seem to have a previous strategy of bringing over Australian coaches, haven't they? Whether they be assistants like Lamb or Maguire. So whether they do that, they look for Adam O'Brien or someone of that ilk.
Gary and Peter have both gone for a former Wigan player to take over as coach. Chris Chester. You're banned.
He's gone to Leeds. Scully's already picked that. He's going to
Along
Leeds.
with James
Chris
Ford.
Chester's going to Leeds. Danny Ward's going to Leeds.
Everyone's
I'm going to Leeds.
Let's say it's Andy Farrell.
Director of rugby, Gareth Schofield.
Andy Farrell.
Well, he might sell some tickets.
Faz,
Might call Scully.
He's the head coach of Ireland. I don't think he's.
Faz is the same as Sean. He doesn't want to leave Rugby Union.
Tony
the
Smith.
profile they've got.
Tony Smith says Carl. Tony Smith happy not being in Rugby League.
Working for the League Managers Association in soccer, isn't it? As a consultant.
Unlikely to come back at this point.
Tony Smith's falling out of love with Rugby League. So you ain't going to get Tony back.
We're talking about the Challenge Cup. And
Yes.
we were talking about, briefly attendances, and we'll come on to that in more detail.
I think there's going to be a fair few at Odsall for Bradford Leeds.
I'm sure
in the
there will
next
be.
round.
It should be a sellout, shouldn't it? And that should be.
Well, I don't think they'll get 102,000. but
whatever's open at Odsall these days. They'll still own it.
has he texted you yet? Saying boxes open.
The phone's in my car. He would have done it. The simple message would be quite simple. Don't be late, Scully.
You know, we joke on this programme, and some people take it more seriously than they should when we say hashtag Leeds in crisis. And people, Leeds men, in crisis. And people believe this is a thing, and we're just taking the mick. Buy the t-shirts. We'll have some. Next week. Next
Did we
Monday.
tell people what we were
because
doing?
the cup draw happened next Monday, live at some point after Wakefield versus Leeds. 4020 live from Wakefield
In the Cat's Bar.
In the Cat's
about
Bar.
5 o'clock.
Come join us.
Bring your rotten fruit
Yeah.
and hurl it at us.
Buy the t-shirts. We'll get Mark to bring the t-shirts.
Or just to
make some
hurl
money.
at Scully.
So we'll be there. Well, Scully might not be there. So
I'll see if I can. I'll have to get it changed.
Can we get one of those sort of tanks? Scully can sit above it if you hit the...
in the car park.
Yeah.
He can arrive in the car.
Make some money.
bring some cakes.
Sling you're the Aussie. I'm not an Aussie. We'll sling it all at you.
So yeah, it's Easter Monday.
Yeah. More details to
I'll
come.
be
Yeah,
anyway,
it's
so,
live at Bellevue, the Mobile Rocket Stadium. We'll be there live.
If you've got any eggs left over after Easter, bring them along.
Yeah. After Wakefield versus Leeds.
But don't put the chocolate ones near Scully.
Fingers crossed they'll Leeds in crisis after that. But speaking of hashtag Leeds men in crisis,
On the rules.
I was reading a tweet this morning about Yorkshire Carnegie, who are genuinely in crisis. They live at the same house as Leeds, but people don't care about them. But there's an interesting quote, I think, from their head coach, I don't know, in the paper today, saying more people should come and watch them. But this is the problem Rugby League's had for years. You can't just expect people to turn up just because you're either A, good, or B, local. And, the arrogance of naming a team after a whole area when you cover just Leeds and there are other teams in the area, well, that's another matter for another day. But look at the attendances in the Challenge Cup. You mentioned earlier, Phil, 1,000 at Salford against Rochdale. Halifax 722.
It was a Thursday night,
but still, Hull
and a great result. Let's pay tribute to Halifax. As the giant killers around.
Hull KR 2,000.
Will that result actually help the Broncos though in a way, because they have to stay up?
It probably will.
In a way, you could say London are starting to get found out a bit now. Everyone knows
Easter's big
the
for
danger.
London. Yeah. And no, I think absolutely that they will outwardly be upset that they're not in the Challenge Cup that ends up at Wembley, but inwardly as a staff, I think they'll be saying, right, focus now is
because they need at least probably another 5 wins to stay up, maybe more.
4,000 at Headingley, 4,200. Bradford only had 1,700 against Fev. It's. I know people have to pay, but are people not bothered anymore? It's interesting because you look at
fixture overkill, Rich.
You look at BBC One yesterday afternoon had the Women's FA Cup semi-final on, and that game had less than 2,000 people there. So when people say, "Oh, Rugby League, we want big crowds, otherwise it looks bad on the telly," people are lying to us, aren't they?
I think we were discussing this after the game at Headingley on Friday night, that one of the downsides of bringing in the 1895 Cup, and we've all said it's a great innovation for clubs in the Championship and League One to have a chance of a big day out at Wembley. And I think we've been advocates of that for some years, that they need something to play for. The problem now is that for the clubs in the Championship and League One devalues the Challenge Cup. Because the longer that they're in it, the closer they are to being knocked out of it. Because just of the way we saw in 2 games this week that you cannot compete with full-time squads if you're a part-time one. But in the 1895 Cup, you're only 3 games away against teams of a similar standard from getting to Wembley. So what magic does the Challenge Cup now hold for the likes of Workington or Rochdale? And it was clear that Workington didn't turn up to do anything other than give their best. But within 10 minutes of being on that field, I mean, Leon Price said it, they were overawed by the occasion rather than inspired by it. But I can't see that changing now. The 1895 Cup is a great idea, but the other side of introducing it is that those teams now don't see the relevance of the Challenge Cup.
So
it's a difficult one.
Just have it Super League clubs. Is that what it's going to come down to in the end?
It might be that if you've got the 1895 Cup that ends up at Wembley, then maybe the Challenge Cup should only be for full-time teams.
Is it just pure nostalgia of the fact that Fev won it in 83 or whatever, that we talk about small clubs and the dreams of getting to Wembley, and did it actually happen as much as people think? And it can't happen in this era where we've got 12 full-time teams against mainly...
And I think the other thing is there's a long gap between rounds these days. So in the era that you played, the Cup was every other week. So if a team who were lower down the league got on a roll and had nothing else to play for... I mean, Leeds were the classic Cup team for doing that. They were never going to win the league because they weren't consistent enough. But once it got to January and every other week you got a peak and win 6 times and get to Wembley, they were pretty good at that.
Same as Widnes, that's why Widnes named Cup Kings, wasn't
it? But it's changed now. If you've got to wait 5 or 6 weeks for the next round, and you're a team that, speaking to clubs like Workington, they need to get out of League One. The money they will have taken from Headingley is great for them, and that helps secure their future in one aspect. But the other aspect is when the television deal comes in 2021, there is a danger that if you're not at least in the Championship, your distribution will be a lot less.
They're not getting it.
So the priority for anybody who runs or coaches that team is by 2021 they have to be in the Championship. So a cup run's great, but promotion's the only thing that matters. And if you're then every other week or once a month over the course of 3 or 4 months have to focus on playing a team that you don't think you can beat, Workington play Whitehaven this week. That is their biggest game of the season so far. Not going to Headingley and losing in the cup.
Yeah. But also too, though, when you look at the sides in that League One, there's 8 of them who realistically can finish top of that league. So that's how competitive it is. And as I say, and I know with my time at Keighley in the season. Before that, 2018. If you don't turn up with your A game week in and week out, you're going to get turned over. So as we've seen in Super League this year, the inconsistency of the sides. But if you are not consistent in that league, certainly for the top four, but certainly as well finish the top of the league, you have no chance.
But
You have no chance.
I also think that one of the reasons we've devalued it as a sport is we don't have Toronto and Toulouse in it. And I understand some of the economic arguments, but you can't call it a cup competition if you're denying some of the teams to play in it.
We haven't even spoken about that. We will need to talk about that in a bit. Not that anyone really cares anymore. As Jane has correctly pointed out, Halifax are part-time, London full-time. Craig saying say that after.
But they're close. They're close on the ladder to each other. And last season they were playing a very similar standard.
Full time last year, weren't they?
In this era of a big difference between professionals and semi-pros, not amateurs. Sorry, that's the wrong word. We aren't going to see Featherstone get to Wembley anymore. It's just not going to happen. It can't work out that way. In football, it can, because as we said before, it's a completely different sport. You can park the bus. You can't do that in rugby league. And chances are, well, like that Wakefield-Wigan game on Friday, Wigan didn't do much, had one chance in the first half, scored from it, and then Wakefield blew them away. That's what's going to happen to these teams. I was surprised, actually, that the BBC chose the Sato Heath Dewsbury game. I know it was 10-all at half-time, but I would have thought they would have gone for something like Bradford-Featherstone, because I know they beat North Wales in the last round, but again, Dewsbury, step up, much bigger step up than North Wales. It was never going to happen, was it? But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Simeon says the most devalued thing is the league leaders. It's overshadowed by knockout rugby for the grand final. We need a grand final. We can't keep going over this argument. We need a big event.
The history of the sport is that we have had grand finals. We used to call them championship finals longer than we ever had just the league leaders winning. We've always had the champions decided by a playoff throughout the bulk of the history of the sport.
Alan agrees with Scoey. Bring back Sean Wayne. I think a lot of people agree with that, but it's not going to happen.
Has he taken your calls yet?
No. Is he still in Scottish Rugby Union anyway?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh,
What's his role at Scottish Rugby Union?
high performance coach.
Defence.
For the under 17s or something. He's not.
So he's not part of the Townsend mob. No.
And he's only doing it on a part-time basis as well.
Ray not impressed with Wigan's tackling at the weekend. Yeah, I've had lots of correspondence with people not happy with Wigan's tackling, but we spoke about that at the start.
But the match review panel clearly don't agree.
They've not done the Man of Steel email yet, so people who've missed out on that, you've missed nothing, unless they've taken me off the list because I take the mickey out of it. International Rugby League, says Alex. Ireland under 19 6, Scotland under 19s 20. Really good game in really difficult windy conditions.
Brilliant.
Ruins all Rugby League.
The more you can get people putting on that national shirt at a younger age, the better, because it's such an inspiration.
The other exciting international rugby league news is, the Nigerian Rugby League. Remember we announced, was it the Kano Lions a few weeks ago on the show? Well, there is another team, as we are exclusively revealing here on this programme. Following and brilliantly, Nigerian Rugby League put these things out phonetically so I can read them properly. We've got the Lagos Rhinos, boo. Jos Minor, Kano Lions, and Echo Trinity, Quanta Trinity. But there's going to be a Lagos derby now because the Rhinos are going to be joined by the Lagos Kings, who, I quote, are proud to be amongst the first set of teams to partake in this groundbreaking venture of introducing rugby league to Nigeria. We have complete faith in the association and we are proud to be able to work with them in growing the sport. We promise to give the fans 100% and more, which is technically impossible. Every night we do this for the love of the game. There you go, the Lagos Kings. Kings
and
versus Rhinos.
Of course, Nigeria hosting the MEA Championship in October. And I've bid to host the 2021 as well.
Genki says, how about they dump loot fixtures and get Super League clubs in the Challenge Cup from the start? Well, we do need to play less games, we keep saying that, but unfortunately the players don't want less money, and the clubs want more money from selling games, even though people don't turn up for them.
Should we talk about the other international news?
What is the other international news? Oh, Ottawa and New York. New York, yeah. So this was the excitement, wasn't it, that we now know who the splitters are, because welcome to... I joked on social media that someone would reveal...
You're not allowed to do that.
Someone would reveal, because in
there's
this
no
era
irony.
All debate.
There is no irony.
You're either pro expansion or against it. You're either a flat capper
is that
or
irrespective of the due diligence that's been done?
All the facts, or the fact that there's shades of grey.
It was ridiculous, wasn't it? Because the way it was painted by a journalist was anti-expansionists. You can't actually ask questions without being...
No, you can't, Rich. That's not journalism.
The splitters, the traitors of expansionism, who voted against these new signs. So we're going to out them here now, because I knew someone would, because it's important we know the facts of who to boo. Widnes, you think they'd be more grateful, wouldn't you? Lee, Rochdale and Hunslet, all the great Myrtle and Flame, all voting against these. Two people have written this article. Well, yeah, it takes a lot of work, doesn't it, journalism? Toronto and Toronto win. New York. Oh yeah, the 4 clubs who voted against the ambition of New York and Toronto. It says here were Widnes, Lee, Rochdale and Hunslet. 2 people, and they can't get that right. So Ottawa and New York, they might be in, because they're not actually in yet. The decision has still got to be made, but they might be in.
What seems strange for me is
I think don't care, actually.
the New York bid. I can't remember exactly filmography. It sort of popped up. Was it April, May 2017?
Mm-hmm. This is the bit where Sky switched off.
And then obviously Nigel Wood went out.
Fact finding.
Did a feasibility study.
Yeah, and now the presentation was only last week, and now we've got this mad rush to say yes or no for next season
by May.
Why has that process taken so long, and now there's a mad rush? And also on the flip side for Ottawa, Eric Perez bought the licence last year. It was never announced by him or by the RFL.
Not even that you could buy a licence.
Well,
and how much
that did pop up a couple of years ago. I remember when Wakefield were linked to Dublin, weren't they? And they said that membership or licences were transferable. But that was never announced or confirmed. Hemel denied it had happened. And I asked the RFL about this, and they said, well, it's a private licence. It's not our job. Okay, fair enough. But then there's this mad rush to say yes or no in
for 2020.
In a couple, which realistically is not even feasible, because the season starts in February. You've got less than, well, my maths isn't very good, but it was that 9 months, 10 months to recruit a coach and players and put all these things together.
Then the coach might want a job with Welsh Rugby.
It just seems very haphazard. I mean, surely there should be a process and a strategy, and that's the other thing that annoys me. The RFL, that you get this comment about, it aligns with our strategic vision. What is the strategic vision? It has never been articulated.
You can read some of that in the new issue of Forty20 in an interview with Karen Morehouse, who is one of the people who will be involved in the decision being made, Director of Legal and Operations.
I interviewed Karen Morehouse last week. She did not articulate any vision at the RFL media briefing.
Part of the vision is that if they can bring more money into the sport and distribute it amongst the properties that they own, which includes the community game and the international game, then that is the strategy.
So the strategy is basically only if we get a broadcast deal. So just in the hope. There's no guarantees.
Ottawa are going to pay for all their games to be on the Our League app to an audience of however many people on the Our League app.
Well, if that isn't preached to the converted, I don't know.
Where there's no advertisers.
The issue I think we've got is that this was an indicative vote. So all of the headlines throughout the world, including the New York Times, that said we could have New York in
We've
Super
also
League.
been covering Rugby League for a while, but that's another matter. But
we're not a lot further down the road that New York will be in the Rugby League. What we have got is that the clubs that were canvassed, who may have turned around and said this is too onerous for us in League One or the Championship, have now said actually we think that if you can deliver, then that's something we would support. We've also got the governing body saying, right, now we're going to do more due diligence. Well, I would have thought until you'd have done all of your due diligence,
you wouldn't be presenting,
which would include the likelihood of a television deal, the likelihood of commercial sponsors rather than perhaps contra deals with people who will bring the teams over but not necessarily put money into the sport. You can't make this decision. I think the other issue that I find slightly odd the more we get to know about the Ottawa bid is that there doesn't seem to be consistency in it. So on the one hand, Eric Perez is saying if we don't get the go-ahead to go to Ottawa, we'll still exercise our licence and we'll play somewhere in this country. Well, again, last we heard from Dr. Kukash, he was planning on putting a team in Liverpool, but he's also got 15...
And Cumbria.
He's got 15 potential financial backers who are all equally wealthy, who could take on the likely burden of debt all at the same time. Well, again, why would you not approach, Salford and buy them, put money into an existing club if he's that desperate to be within? There are avenues you can go down. If an investor of that magnitude is not going to want to see his team play in League One. He's not going to be able to get a television deal of any magnitude if his team is playing in League One. We've seen that with Toronto, that the viewing figures are not there for playing in League One. The other thing about
no one wants to see 100
well,
mil.
and the other thing that's missing is we are told that one of the additional conditions to allow an overseas expansion team eventually into Super League is that it can't be more than a quarter of the existing competition.
So 3.
So while and at the moment we have one who is already in there in Catalan, and we have Toronto and Toulouse on the verge, certainly well ahead of where Ottawa and New York would be if they came in League One. So at what point does Super League have to say we will allow Ottawa and New York to come in, even though it's not in a competition that we control? But if they got to the borderland of coming into Super League, we would increase the teams in Super League. Because again, without that categoric assertion, I'm an investor in Ottawa and I'm going, right, I want to be playing Wigan and St Helens and I'm going to try and do that in 3 or 4 years. Well, you can't, because we don't know what the plan is for expanding Super League to allow you in. And I genuinely think that there is a complete dislocation between what the game wants from its expanded profile and what it can afford. And I don't think any of those questions have been answered by what we know.
These broadcast deals, right? Bear in mind, and we've revealed this before on the programme, we were in talks to buy the rights to the Women's Super League last year, and the price quoted by the Rugby Football League was £50,000 for the rights for the year.
Scully should be able to afford that.
Think of a number.
Bear in mind our budget now. We had a budget then.
I've got a fiver.
But Ken Bates doesn't fund this programme now. So our budget now is 0, so we can afford it anyway. But why would Canadian broadcaster / American broadcaster pay any money to broadcast a sport which is completely alien to them?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. And this is a point that seems to me completely missed. People aren't going to throw money at a sport they've never heard of. These people in Ottawa, who knows about rugby league?
I think that's the thing. I think in the future, it might be 5 years or 10 years, they may do when they see that there's 10,000 turning up every, at Ottawa or Toronto, and a lot of people playing the game. But it's a long-term strategy. There's a lot of short-termism.
Here's another thing, which goes right to that point. We've tried expanding this sport from the minute it was invented. Early test matches taken to London and Edinburgh and Birmingham. We've had teams in London in the 30s. We've had teams in Wales.
State of origin in California.
For expansion to work, it needs a lot of money.
Yes.
Citing Melbourne Storm.
Yes.
Who have cost
about 40 million quid.
Right. It needs B, some concessions. So like Catalan had a moratorium on relegation when they came in, because they would have been relegated in the early stages. They may never have come back from that. But more than anything, it needs time. And the one thing, again, that doesn't quite add up in the Ottawa bid, and is hinted at in the New York bid, is that they're going to concentrate on producing local players. There are no local players. There is a small amount of rugby league being played at community level in Canada. The new USA season is kicking off. There are 8 teams, I think, that you would call absolutely credible, but the standard, through no fault of anybody's, because it's not an indigenous game, that is incredibly low. And we've seen it with American football here, even with the London Monarchs, where a lot of money was put into them, that if you are serious about developing talent in a country that doesn't play the sport, give yourself 30 years. So again, how does that stack up with we are going to use local players? There are no local players.
Well, the interesting
in fact, how many players have come through Melbourne in the 20 years where they have been
I think it's
4.
3 or 4, yeah. I think with the Ottawa bid, what I've seen of the bid, what they say they will do is they will convert rugby union players and clubs in Ontario to rugby league, they state that Eric Perez has a history of doing that.
Of rugby league?
There's no guarantee, as we've seen in the number of top class rugby union professionals who've gone to rugby league. A lot of them are failures, so it's not that easy.
And you actually need to be working on under 12s, under 13s, so that by the time, in 10 years' time, they come through, it's second nature to them. All of this about the players coming out of the college system of the NFL in America could all be rugby league players. Probably the first generation couldn't, but maybe the second or third generation possibly could. But it's time. We're saying, are we going to bring a new franchise in a month's time? We don't have that time.
Well, I think the point
about coming
out of college And these athletes are, they're really strong, they're really fast, they'll be able to bust tackles, but do they know how to throw a cutout pass? Do they know the other spot a 2-on-1 and exploit it? These are things you pick up over years of playing
as well on social media. Somebody like Monty Gaddis, who clearly has great footwork, he has a passion for the sport.
Very good at promoting himself as well.
But he hasn't been able to make it even at a semi-professional level, because although he is unquestionably an athlete, he's not a rugby league player. And the two are completely different.
As Scully knows.
Well, even at Barra level, you have coached players who are not natural rugby league players, that have come maybe from rugby union in their 20s, or very keen. We should be encouraging them to play, but they don't come at a standard you could play in League One.
Well, they say when I was in South Africa in 2010, I got involved in the South African side, and exactly what John's saying there. They were all rugby union players who were trying to convert to rugby league.
There'd be some huge bodies,
Oh, massive! Yeah, they were massive. But the two totally different games. So when I was with the South African guys, and what I said to them, listen, because you're at rugby union, they're all around. They're like 6-year-olds. They all just follow where the ball. So what we do in rugby league is we play with a bit of width. The pitch is 77 yards wide, so we spread out, obviously defensive point of view, but also too when we're moving the ball, this is the way we're going to play. We're not running around straight where the ball goes. So in the training sessions, they were all right. They adapted to that for I think the 4 or 5 training sessions are with them. When we went to the game, as soon as we kicked off, what did they do? Straight where the ball went. Yeah. So it just went. So they just forgot.
Because it's instinct.
Exactly, but they're not natural rugby league players. And so, as you guys have mentioned from there, Phil, you mentioned 30 years, John, you mentioned 20. That's the sort of time scale what you're going to be looking at for developing these players in clubs.
There doesn't seem to be any. I mean, even a framing a future style document that says, all right, North America is where we want to be. We want to have 8 clubs by 2030, or we want to have. There needs to be, instead of just saying, okay, we're going to throw in a club here, we might put in one here. We've already done this in the UK with Hemel, with Oxford, with Gloucestershire, and they've failed.
I think
Crusaders.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Crusaders. See, the Crusaders, they actually started off quite well. Obviously, there were some issues with the ownership, but
they did have a TV deal as well.
They'd been supported and maybe funded by the RFL or whatever, that could be thriving right now. Wales could be producing,
a
but
team
we let it die.
A team for a region or a country is the way. Catalan have proved that you don't just. They are talking at the moment. Robert Elston said it on radio this morning. They're hoping to take between 30 and 40,000 to Barcelona. One of the reasons they'll get that kind of a crowd is because they carry the name Catalan. It's an incredibly proud region. Barcelona is the capital of that area. If you take those colours and that name into that stadium, people will support it. They might not understand what they're watching, but they will support it. That's a way to grow the game. I think we need to make clear for those people that listen and think we're anti-expansionist. I don't think there is more pro-expansion than some of the people that sit at this table.
Done right and properly.
But we want to know what the plan is.
Yeah.
We want to know that they're given every advantage to be successful, and that merely by giving out a portfolio that says we could or couldn't do this, that's not enough. It's the game itself has got to acknowledge that this needs time and massive investment.
So at the end of the day, 2 clubs, where the players going to come from? They're going to come from journeymen. So if you don't start at the bottom and develop your own, as you say, give it a 20, 30-year plan, I'm afraid to say it's doomed to fail.
I think you've got to dovetail it with your international expansion as well. So, if you are going to put teams in North America, who is talking to the local domestic leagues about what is needed to be the feeder teams into that?
World Cup there in 2025, that's doomed.
Yeah.
We're not anymore.
Yeah, we're not going there, are we? No. That's what I'm saying.
Well, unless another bidder comes forward on that continent, but certainly the one who was going to promote it is clearly not going to. But just because you have access to some players from a different sport is not enough. Just because you've got a contra deal with an airline and a hotel to start a team, that's not enough. What is the plan for development?
Exactly.
The problem is people will see this discussion as negativity.
No, it's asking questions.
This is the problem with Rugby League at the moment.
It's like over here when we're talking about our game from our kids.
We're just asking for professional standards.
Of course it is, absolutely. But also too, the word at the Rugby Football League now is from our kids from 12, 13, 14, 15. The word pathway. There's not really, I wouldn't say, a great pathway over here. But if there's not a great pathway here, There's not going to be one over
And,
there,
and I
is
think if you're serious about bringing in new expansion teams, you have to bring them in at the highest possible level rather than the low. Because if you are ever going to get a television deal, if you are going to get Billy Slater to come out of retirement and sign for you, he's not going to do it to play in League One.
Exactly.
But if you're going to ESPN and saying, would you be interested? But what will be is we will be in the top flight. So what you might not understand rugby league, but it'll be elite rugby league. We could get in the World Club Challenge and we could be playing an Australian team within 3. But what you can't do is what Eric Perez has said, we're happy to sit in League One for as long as it takes. You're not going to get a television deal if you do that. You're not going to get the best players coming. And you're going to harm the teams that are in League One because it is too onerous for parts. You know, it was hard for Workington. Some of their players did a shift before they got on a bus to come to Headingley on Friday night. Can you imagine going to...
That's not professional sport.
You cannot go to Ottawa on a regular basis without harming those clubs.
It's a similar... Just one second. There's a similar rise with football or soccer in North America. The Premier League is booming.
Yeah.
You know, soccer is being played all across
North America. Teams are going to Australia in the close season, aren't they? The A-League may not be the best, but 30,000 will turn up and watch
Leeds
Liverpool.
United and Manchester United, they'll get 80,000 and, they'll get more than State of Origin and that sort of thing. But in North America, the Premier League rights are huge. They're growing every year. That's because they're selling the best football there is. They're not selling League Two.
Yes.
They're not selling the conference.
And I think the other thing about Melbourne, who are a really good example, because even in Australia, which is incredibly cash-rich and has ridiculously lucrative TV deals, their modus operandi to be what they are at the moment, and they are an absolutely fantastic side, but they're a club that still only gets 20,000 people in the city where they're the second sport. They went out and bought the very, very best players that were available, kept them together and moulded it. The spine of that team is the best Australian has to offer, playing at the top level. People would not have bought into Melbourne Storm if they hadn't had Cameron Smith playing for them, if they hadn't had Greg Inglis or Billy Slater.
You're buying to that, but also as well, the teams who were voted for Ottawa and New York to come in, it was an overwhelming vote, wasn't it?
It's an expression of interest.
1925.
But still the RFL board has to make that decision.
Right, okay, but the clubs have voted for it massively. For what reason? What reason?
Because I think they can see. They can. There's no reason why you wouldn't.
They need revenue. They need money.
But if they don't, because the TV deal was going to come in from Sky. The Championship clubs and the League One clubs, they know they're going to get. Well, the League One clubs are going to get nothing. I can say that for nothing. The Championship clubs, they're getting nowhere near what they've been used to. So you're talking about a TV deal, what they're on about from Ottawa or New York. If that doesn't happen, what's the point?
I think they're hoping that it will open new commercial avenues.
Yeah. But if you're saying if they're in League One, how's that? Who's going to want to watch that? Exactly what John has said.
We are a strange sport, aren't we? We are a very strange sport who sometimes appear to want to hold ourselves back. We want to push the sport forward, but then you'll have. And this is a minor irritation of mine, but say the Eddie Hemmings debate, who should take over from Eddie Hemmings, and people will come up with great ideas of great commentators and professionals, and then someone will throw in, and this is no disrespect to him because I've said this point before, Mick Morgan's name. You can't have your top level sport and the commentator be a comedian, because it works on the Castle Club videos but not in the real world. As Sonic,
what about Richard Keys?
Let's establish the position, I think, of everybody who is involved with 4020 is that we are pro-expansion, but done in the right way. We are massive exponents of taking the game that we love more than any other to as many people in as many markets as we can. But it's only right, rather than just accepting a brochure, to ask, irrespective of the name on that brochure.
Dennis has asked about the ESPN Plus deal, but how much money is it for? What
the other thing is, it isn't a deal.
They're not paying.
And New York have not said there is a deal. They have said quite categorically, we have spoken to ESPN. And you wouldn't expect ESPN to agree to pay any money to a competition that the team isn't in yet. So it's a chicken and egg thing, isn't it?
They've got any players.
But the fact that you would hope they had spoken to ESPN, you'd hope that the RFL have spoken to Channel 4 and Channel 5, and they may well have done so, but it's not a deal. There's no money attached to it at the moment.
We've got no players, Phil.
But irrespective of any name that wants to come in, be it, Hemel and Oxford and Gloucestershire All Golds when they were in, or Ottawa now, what is the overall strategy for developing the sport of rugby league? And nobody has told us what that is.
I think someone said to me on Twitter that it's sort of like Brexit. And it does seem to be, it's such a polarising issue, but you're either one side or the other, but there is actually a lot of grey in there that we need to get through. And
I don't envy the RFL giving themselves a month to make a decision, because now they can't win. So one thing they've done by, quite rightly, having an indicative vote and it going very public as to who voted for what, is everybody now is sitting there going, right, okay, well, in May we'll have Ottawa and New York in. And if they don't let them in, it'll be the RFL.
The RFL lost the argument from the moment of the Magic Weekend where you could buy a New York City Rugby League T-shirt and people believed it was real. And now it's real.
So what about the pilots?
So there's two issues that could come out of this. One is, do we start taking games to New York and Ottawa? Does everybody buy into the fact
that would be a way to test the market?
Test the market, or do we say to New York and Ottawa, New York, you go into the the USAFL Community League, show everybody what you're made of. We want to see, the local players that you're saying exist there. Ottawa, they play in whatever the Canadian League is, and when you've played a couple of seasons in there and you're bringing through some of the local talent, then you can reapply. There's got to find some ground to encourage these people, even if they're not going to bring them in straight away.
I think testing the market is a great way, and obviously there was talks last year with New York about Australia playing Tonga there. I think it fell down because they didn't have the finance to pay, to back it up. But that would have been a great way, because you can take that kind of game, which is the best players in the world, your Fifitas, your Tamalolos, your Cameron Smiths, and if you get 20,000 or whatever,
or Toronto get promoted, and they're obviously looking for certain venues before they can play back in Canada because of the weather, they're mandated that New York is at least one of the places that they have to play to test the market.
Congratulations to Cameron Smith, breaking the record in the NRL.
Fantastic.
So 3,800 points behind Neil Fox.
We were chatting about this. How good is Cameron Smith? You talk about players who are going to be immortals at some stage.
And who was Neil Fox?
Surely Cameron Smith is one of the greatest players ever to pull on a shirt.
No two ways about it. He's the best hooker that's ever played the game. And we know the game's totally different to what it was 20, 30 years ago, because the scrums are totally different with hooker. But his game he plays as a hooker, but then he plays like a halfback and he plays like a loose forward. He's got a heart as a lion. He's just an all-round rugby league player from a point of view defensive wise. I think he makes 40 tackles a game. He doesn't look as though he's out of breath. Every time he plays, he's got the nickname the Accountant from Ray Warren, hasn't he? His creativity, his vision, his awareness, his tactical kicking, his goal kicking. Well, what more can you say?
He referees the game as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. But he is the complete rugby league player.
It's amazing though. The first couple of years at Melbourne, Matt Orford was a goal kicker.
Yeah.
So he probably would have had another 300-400 points by now if he wasn't a goal kicker.
But the best hooker I'd seen and played Benny Elias when I was at Balmain. But
have you ever seen a player in situation?
No, not whatsoever. And I tell you what, when you look at the certainly for the last 15 years in the NRL, you look at the players. You look at Lockyer and you look at Andrew Jones. And you can look at Jonathan Thurston, and we can look at Billy Slater,
Cooper Cronk,
and Cooper Cronk, and then there's Cameron Smith. You just can't say that Cameron Smith is above all in players because of the player what he is. He is the complete rugby league player. He doesn't shirk anything on that field. Doesn't shirk any responsibilities. And when he wants to be nitty gritty, he's involved in that. When he wants to be pretty, he wants to be involved in that. And from a representative point of view, we know what he did at Queensland, we know what he's done with Australia. And as I say, the best hooker for me that's ever played the game, and he's a complete rugby league player, and he will be an immortal one day. There's no two ways about it.
One of the best players you've ever seen?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you mentioned a few there. I mean, for me, particularly growing up in Newcastle, but Andrew Johns just completely change halfback because he tackled like a prop. You know, he could do it all. But yeah, Cameron Smith is in that.
Well, there's no two ways about it.
I mean, obviously, completely different characters. I think Cameron Smith. One of the things that impressed me interviewing him a few times is just what a great spokesman he is for the game. I mean, he is the perfect leader.
Yeah. You know what Cameron does as well, because he when I was out in the World Cup 17, I was in the same hotel with the lads at Brisbane, and I sat with him one morning as well. And everything what Cameron does, he does with a smile on his face, and that's what I love to see from sportsmen. Just enjoying everything what they do,
and that rubs off when you're the captain and the icon.
You know, he's
you're setting the mood for the.
Absolutely, he's a great ambassador for the sport as well. But he just loves what he does. He loves that responsibility, and also too the extra pressure what he has. He seems to thrive on it. But everything what he does with a smile on his face, and that's what I love to see.
Is it prediction time?
Almost, yeah.
Because we've got two lots of predictions.
Well, do we do Easter Monday? Because we're not going to have a clue what's going to go on. There's no point, is there? Because we might as well just stick everything in. It wasn't music.
But we do need to remind people, on Easter Monday,
we are live.
We are live, probably from 5 o'clock.
Yes, some point.
In the Cat's Bar.
Yeah, for the Mobile Rocket
Come and buy
Stadium.
SCOE a drink.
Hopefully they'll have the Cass game on the telly so we can watch it, because they're playing the Catalan Dragons. But,
does that mean if we're at Wakefield on Monday, I've got to tip Wakefield to win on Thursday?
No.
If you want to get in, yeah.
I'm just saying that Morgan should be on Sky. They're going to let me even in the ground on Thursday. People are stupid. He's an undeniable fact. So yeah, it is prediction time. It is the Good Friday.
Have we been roundly slaughtered for our argument about development?
No. The problem is the people who watch this programme, they know, right? They know what's going on. And the people who don't watch this programme, they don't know what's going on. And they're blindly led by. I got in trouble the other day because I tweeted and I said the problem with rugby league is it's full of fantasists and bullshiners.
You forgot chances.
And I didn't name them.
Jason Moore.
People said, "Why didn't I name those people?" And that's right. Dr. Kukash, there's one for you. and the media's full of them as well, who will kick
Mike
people.
Green.
Yeah, people who are not. It's all right to say Shaun Edwards is this and the other, but it's not all right to say the same about Dr. Kukash because might give us a job one day or promote the team in Cumbria, which isn't happening in all London. So it is prediction time. Who will have a Good Friday stroke Thursday? Let's start with Thursday night at the Mendohouse Jungle, because it is the big derby. Forget all this Bradford Leeds nonsense. That's media-fed bull, so to speak, by those people. Forget all that. Oh, it's going to be awful for the next few weeks, and it's just be all Bradford Leeds, and Leeds are going to smash them. Cass Wakefield. Oh, this is the one that matters. The Wounded Tigers versus the 3 players Trinity have got left. David Fifita, he plays in every position.
Scott Moore Cup.
Scott Moore Cup. Gary Schofield.
Never played for Wakefield Cass. I came with the SCOE Cup. But, right, Wakefield Cass. Well, have Wakefield got any players? No. They're on about Bruffy, on about playing with a broken foot.
No, he's having a hand operation
I'm going to
tomorrow.
say there's no chance from there.
He's out for over a month.
Yeah, you've no
That's
chance
a big,
playing with broken
big,
foot. But
big
anyway,
one.
As indeed is Jacob Miller.
Yes, yeah, he's out as well.
Well,
So
you might
Cass,
be getting the call up fast, but
so yeah, Wakefield, the big players are out, aren't they? So Cass are looking to bounce back a little bit from a disappointment against Huddersfield. So due to the injuries of Wakefield, you just can't see anything. I know the Wakefield players will come in and look to put a marker down from there, but you just can't see anything but another win for Casford, can you? So I know we're going to Wakefield live next Monday, but due to the injury situation, hopefully Chester might get a reaction, like Lee Radford got from his players. But I just feel as though Cass desperate for 2 points. I'm going Cass by 10.
yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Pink. I think the injuries will be too tough. I know they've recalled Ben Reynolds, but just losing both those halves. They're both Danny Brough and Jacob Miller are starting to work really well together. So I think Castleford by 10.
I think the Wakefield forwards have been an absolute revelation this year. But it's very, very hard to play without your strike players and your halves. At some point, you've got to be picking up points. So you can defend manfully, but can you score? And I think that'll be the issue for Wakefield. That if Riesling isn't playing as well, they've just run out of the guys that you would automatically think would score them enough points to win that game. So I think I'm going to have to go with Cass as well. I think they might win by 16.
I'm enjoying this. So I'm going to go for Wakefield because I don't care regardless.
Because you want to get in on Monday.
Because I want to get in on Monday. And I don't know, backs against the wall. No one cares. Everyone's injured. Can't win. Written off by everyone. That kind of thing. you never know, someone might be a surprise star. Polly's just going to eat all the Castle plays that David Fifita doesn't anyway. So I'm going to go for Golden Point. Who would be taking the drop goals for Wakefield with no one?
Fifita.
David Fifita,
He can't put a foot wrong at the moment.
Wakefield by 1.
60.
Ridiculous. The big derby, of course, is not. What am I talking about? The big derby is on Friday. Because it's the game they always used to put on Magic Weekend on the Sunday morning when no one was there. It's London and Catalan. Is this Thursday?
Thursday
night. It's so important. I didn't know which day it's on. Why do London and Catalans get an extra day of rest?
They don't, because Catalan are playing Castleford on the Monday. So the teams that have to go to Catalan tend to play on the Thursday.
Right. London get an extra day before
because we care about the welfare of the players.
London Catalans. This will be played in front of possibly a Super League record low crowd. But Gary Schofield, talk up the game.
Yeah. Well, we always mention Catalans on the road, but even at home now. All right, they're beating St Helens and Warrington at home. You can't believe that. And Catalans away from home. London, I would imagine they have ticked this box as a possible victory, and I think London will turn Catalans over on Thursday night. I'm going London by 10.
I think Catalans, they are the number one yo-yo team, but I think they'll bounce back from that bitter loss to Hull and beat London by 8.
I have a feeling that Catalans will come over aggrieved. I think they feel that whatever the rights and wrongs of Braden Williams' knowledge of the laws, that they felt that they possibly had done enough to win that game against Hull.
Surely.
Well, he's banned for a game.
Oh, is he? It should be dropped for 6 then.
I don't know what psychologically that cup defeat at Halifax will have done for London, because they didn't rest as many players as I thought they would. They kept a fair core of that team together. I think this is a pivotal time of the season for London, because they're at Huddersfield on Easter Monday. I wouldn't expect them to get anything out of that, so I think they will target this game as the 2 points they need over the holiday period. So I'm going London by 2.
I'm torn on this one. I've got no idea where to go.
Well, you can't predict Catalan.
No, I think I'm going to go with London because, like Scotty said, this is probably the game where, of the two, I mean, when we were looking at things a few weeks ago, you'd have said, going away to Huddersfield, that's a good chance for them on the Easter Monday. But Huddersfield are good now because you can't keep up with who's good and who's bad. I'm going to go London narrowly by 4. The big one on Friday. We're on Friday now. It is the Hull Derby. The only derby in an actual city, in Rugby League, East meets West, at the KCOM Stadium. It's the Black and Whites versus the Red and Whites, the Early Birds versus the Robins, and deciding the man of the match will be the one and only Mr. Gary Schofield.
Deciding the man of steel, not the man of match. They'll be saying that because
you're not Terry Yoker.
Judas.
Don't be like Matt Wilson. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Taking the ball out, aren't you?
No.
Waving
you want a tin hat or something?
They've changed it. It's Johnny Whiteley now. They've changed
They pick someone they like.
It's a bit harsh. It's a great man. Johnny's doing it, but it'll be a great atmosphere, won't it? And I say Hull are going to be very, very buoyant after that victory over at Catalans from there. Hulky are, but they liked a bit of surprise and they played very well at the KCOM over the last couple of years, and they've really put on a show, haven't they? So, but I just feel as though the Black and Whites, the Red and Whites are looking for revenge. What happened? The Black and Whites for revenge. What happened at Ulkinson Rovers in the last 10 seconds or so from there. I think it'll be tight though, and I'm sure I'll be hearing plenty of Sneed on Friday. I think again this is going to go down to a point. I think this is a drop goal, but I'm going the Black and Whites by 1.
Yeah.
And not by golden point. I think they'll do it in 18 minutes. I think there'll be a point, and it'll be that man Mark Sneed who gets the 2 points again.
Yeah, I think they've turned a bit of a corner lately. The young kids they've brought in are doing a really good job, and I think they'll grind this one out. Hull got a few injuries, particularly in the forwards. So I'm saying tipping Hull FC by 2.
I think Hulkar have a couple back. I know Mitch Garbutt looks like he's going to play. But I think Hull have got a point to prove after their last home display, where they were absolutely abject against Warrington. Hopefully that proves to be a blip rather than something that's going to tarnish their season, because we have said Lee Radford has talked about the atmosphere at home and the pressure that puts on the players. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. I think they'll respond to that. I think that even if he can't make too many changes with people coming back, because would he have 6 front rowers out in Catalan? If that doesn't inspire you as a young player, nothing will to play in the Hull derby and the atmosphere that will be generated. I think that's why Hull will do it. But I think it will be incredibly close. I'm Hull by 4.
4. I'm going to go Hull as well, and because I haven't got a clue, I'm just going to pick a number and go Hull by 8. The big one, everyone's going to be there, although I don't think I can be bothered anymore. I might just go watch stuff on the telly. Leeds versus Huddersfield in the whoever's derby this is.
Well. You know what? I'm hoping after 10 games, and I'm taking nothing from the Warrington fixture whatsoever. You know, because I said Leeds by 50, and if they didn't beat them by 50, then it wouldn't have been a good performance. But they've got 76, so hopefully now, after 10 games, we're going to start our season. And I think it could start for us on Friday. So, I'm going Leeds. And you know what? I'm going Leeds by a few points, actually. I'm going Leeds to turn Huddersfield over by 14.
Yeah, I think you're wrong. I think Huddersfield, much like Hull FC, they've turned a bit of a corner. They're grinding out a few wins. A lot tougher, got some people back. So I think more misery for your Rhinos, and Huddersfield by 8.
Huddersfield have got a great record at Headingley in recent years. That's
but
mainly been down to Danny Brough. But the one thing that Huddersfield have got is the one thing that Leeds don't, and that is a big set of forwards. If this game is played in...
Oh, you're going to say defence?
If this game's played in the middle of the field, Huddersfield will win. If Leeds can get the ball wide, Leeds will win. And that's why, actually, it is quite an intriguing game and would be worth you coming along.
Right. I don't know if I'm going to be banned, though, from Leeds. That's the problem.
No, you'll be fine. I don't think Leeds will win by a lot, but I'll give it Leeds by 6. But that is more in hope than judgment.
At least the women's team like me. I'll go for Leeds by 2. I don't know what's happened. I got to this point and I'm like, yeah, rugby's back. Warrington Salford. Oh, dear me. I mean, this is like Warrington Salford's on. Yeah.
Warrington Salford. All right then. Well, Salford.
He's going to great times.
Yeah, well, they had a decent win against. They had a decent win against Rochdale, didn't they? But
close game.
They're not going to be a match for Warrington. Warrington, they're looking for a reaction against what happened against St Helens from there. And I think this will be an easy win for Warrington, to be honest with you. I'm going Warrington by 36.
Yeah, I think Warrington will bounce back and be looking to prove a bit of a point against Salford. I think they'll win by 18.
Aside from the cup win, it's 4 defeats in a row for Salford at the moment. They are on a bit of a slide in Super League. They too have had injuries. It looks like Ed Chamberlain now might be out for a long time, and that'll be a bit of a blow for them as well. I cannot see anything other than a Warrington win because they need to prove to themselves that the St Helens game was only a temporary setback. So I think it will be Warrington by 36.
Peter's going to the pub and having plenty of beer before the game. He's a Salford fan. I'm going for Warrington by 22. And many things have changed in the last 20 odd years. BSB became B Sky B, which no one calls it anymore. The graphics have got smaller. The music's still there, and Eddie's hair's still the same colour. It's amazing how many things change and how many things stay the same. It's his last call. It's Wigan versus St Helens, the traditional Good Friday encounter.
He's only calling one winner here, that is for sure. Wigan are rubbish. St Helens are quality, far superior. This is going to be an absolute rout for St Helens. I'm going St Helens by 32.
See, people say, why is Scully not on the telly? Why is he not on the panel on Sky giving his expert analysis? Well, there you go. That's because he's too succinct. Not enough words there, Scully, you see.
Yeah, I think we're going to creak.
You can imagine him on the big screen with John Welsh. They were rubbish. They were great. Let's go to the bar.
I think we're going to creaking on and off the field. Got a few injuries, struggling quite a bit, and St Helens just look a class above. Not any injury worries. I think the fact that it's a derby, Wigan will be up for it, but I still think St Helens by probably 12.
And we've seen some games in the past between these two teams where either or a side has gone in with real major injury problems. Some kids get thrown in, and as we said about the whole derby, they just respond. Was it early 2000s, Wigan were playing the likes of Luke Robinson on debut and didn't have a chance and beat St Helens, who were the team of all-stars. I just can't see it happening at the moment. There seems to be structural issues with Wigan. They are not scoring enough points, and when they go behind, they're very un-Wigan-like. They're conceding consecutively. I think that was a big blow for them this week in the manner in which they lost to Wakefield. It's almost like the game started to go away from them and they didn't have any players that could stop that. So I can't see St Helens losing, because the one thing Saints have got this year is a squad. So even if they lose it, I mean, they lost Theo Farge, and you'd have thought that would have undermined them. I don't know if Danny Richardson obviously has had an issue with not being in the team, but he certainly hasn't come back into that squad with the same
impetus, no, he hasn't.
as he did. But it hasn't derailed St Helens. So I just think if they have to bring a couple of players in, it's not going to stop them. So I can't see Saints losing, but I don't think it'll be a runaway. Maybe 12.
The one thing that will be guaranteed on this game is because Sky are kings of montages and queens, and they'll, I'm sure, have a great montage of the last 25 years of great Eddie Hemmings moments. Wide to West, that Ryan Hall try, all the other ones you can't remember. So that'll probably be the highlight of the game, because it should be a simple win for St Helens, shouldn't it? And I'm going to go for St Helens by 16. Let us know what you think on Twitter at Forty20 Live. And don't forget, this time next week we'll be live at the Mobile Rocket Stadium. Fingers crossed the internet works. Betty saying view numbers are plummeting. Get on with the predictions. We're done now. Viewing figures can go down as low as they want. We don't care. We're not beholden to anyone. All they can do is take us off the air, ban us from Facebook and YouTube. Not like some TV programmes whose figures are diminishing, but there you go. It's another story for another day. Thanks to Phil, thanks to John, thanks to Scoey. Some of us might be back next week. Some of us might not be. We'll find out if Scoey can get out of Huddersfield.
Come and tell us how rubbish our predictions were.
Come and join us live in person, and hopefully we'll do more of them if this works, which is the key. I've got to go turn everything off now because that's my job on this programme. Professionalism. It is the last word.